right? We're talking about all this stuff and more on
Hey!
today's episode. Okay. All right. So that's gonna run here. Just pull that real quick so we can have this running over here.
Because notes, they're important.
Yep, notes are more
What the
important.
hell did you do? Oh, there we go. I was like, I thought that was this week.
No. Those are my end of the year notes.
Yeah. It's like, what is happening there?
No. We'll get there soon, actually. We got to start talking about that.
A month away, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Figure something out.
Ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
5, 4, 3.
Fake out every week. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Media Boat Podcast. Hey, this is episode 305, Dolly.
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide. We are the Worldwide Podcast, Media Boat Podcast. If you don't know, and it's November the 13th, by the way, 2021. If you are watching this or listening to this and don't know what the Media Boat Podcast is, well, it's a podcast about movies, video games, television, and music, not necessarily in that order. My name is Matt. With me, as always, is Mike.
I'm Mike. He's Matt. Not always, if you were listening to last week's episode.
I guess not as always.
But
you know what I mean.
We try to be, what is it, 95% of the time we're together.
So wait, you have survived NASCAR in Arizona.
We'll talk about that in sports, about who won, why it may or may not be controversial, some other stuff as well.
Yes, so welcome back. But in the meantime...
Yes, I did survive the Arizona heat, if that's what you're asking.
Somehow. Although you brought it back with you.
Yes,
we've had an unusually warm week here in the middle of November.
Yeah.
But other than that, though, we have a podcast to do, and we have a long one.
I have lots of thoughts. I've got like 2 weeks worth of thoughts all stored up in
We have thoughts catch up to do. So let's start, as we always do, with movies. And we always start movies with the weekend box office numbers. As you may well know, another MCU movie debuted last weekend.
Shocking no one.
Eternals, which premiered to a modest $71 million. Not blowing away anybody's expectations, not setting any records, but also no slouch either.
Especially still in a post-pandemic.
Right. Puts it in the middle of the pack, I think, more or less, with the big blockbusters of 2021. Following that, another blockbuster of 2021, Dune, with another $7.7 million. That's at $84 million.
So if you're comparing Eternals to Dune, Eternals will pass Dune next week.
Easily. Although, of course, this is not keeping in mind Dune's numbers on HBO Max,
correct,
which we should also include here. Number 3, No Time to Die, another $6 million. That's at 143, respectable so far.
Now that's a number for Eternals to catch.
Indeed. Number 4, Venom: Let There Be Carnage, with another $4.4 million. That's almost at 200 at 197 million domestic. Right?
That may or may not actually limp over the 200 mark, much the same way that Congress Godzilla did.
Yes, it very well could. And then number 5, Ron's Gone Wrong, with another $3.5 million. That's only at 17 million. Still disappointing, I think, for Disney. It's not performing in the way they wanted to.
Is that Disney?
It's technically Disney. I believe it's through what would have been a Fox film originally, but I think it's technically still Disney. Also, they were doing a lot of marketing on Disney Channel because of one of theirs. Again, like I said last week on my solo show, the only marketing they were doing for that movie. And in case you're wondering what the other debut from last week did at the box office, it's away at number 8, Spencer, which I didn't know what the hell it was. Comes in at $2.1 million.
This is the Princess Diana biopic.
Called
Diana Spencer.
Okay, got it. That's an awful name for that. No one would know.
No. That's why it's down here.
Maybe that's why it's number 8.
Yeah.
And this weekend, if you're looking to see some movies, well, a couple movies for you. Clifford the Big Red Dog, which of course is the film adaptation of the beloved children's books. Giant Red Dog, you know.
Yep, it actually came out early on Wednesday in order to beat this week's new release.
Which, of course, is Belfast. What is Belfast?
Oh, this is where like the crickets and the violins go on because it's a black and white period piece.
Oh boy! All right, that's someone somewhere is looking forward to this.
Someone named Oscar is potentially looking at this.
Yes. Maybe
for next year.
Yeah, I don't know that he's just like in his mother's basement, just chilling. Like Oscar is eating Cheetos. I don't know what he's doing. All right,
like Oscar the statue.
I knew what you were doing. I got it. I got it.
Whoosh.
Anyways, let's move on into some movie news for you. A couple weird stories, or one weird story and some bits for you. Let's get to the weird story. I had no idea that this was going to happen. This was not on my radar at all.
No, I don't think this upcoming story was on anybody's radar. But at the same time, it's still weird that it happened.
Yeah, here's a rare crossover between the video game section and the movie section for y'all. Unity Software. Yes, if you're in the games industry, you might recognize that name because they, of course, are the game development platform that powers many of your favorite indie games. Made a $1.625 billion acquisition of none other than Peter Jackson's New Zealand-based Weta Digital. At some point, Unity plans to make Weta Digital's tools available to creators through a cloud-based workflow with software as a service pricing to be announced later. Under this deal, Unity is obtaining the Weta Digital suite of VFX tools and technology and its team of 275 engineers who will join Unity's Create Solutions division. Weta Digital's VFX and animation teams will continue to exist as a standalone entity known as Weta FX and retain about 1,700 employees, including CEO Prem Akkaraju. The proposed deal is expected to close before the end of 2021, subject to regulatory approvals. So one thing I want to add here that the story does not mention is who the hell is Weta? You might recognize that name or might have seen their work in VFX films, heavy VFX films such as the Lord of the Rings trilogy and
Avatar. And all the Marvel films.
For a very long time, current era included.
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, they were the bar, they were the bar to reach when you're talking about visual effects, CGI in films. They were doing motion capture, they were doing
before everyone else was doing motion capture.
Yeah, it was basically ILM and them. Weta was huge, and I still think they are one of the biggest of these kind of studios in the world. They work on very high-profile projects. So for Unity to buy, just outright,
that was weird. And they're splitting Weta's basically assets between keeping the VFX studio for the movies as a constant stream of revenue because that is never going to go away at this point.
Yeah.
And then taking that kind of software and spinning it off for other creators to mesh with and make. And
it's really interesting to look at this because I feel like this is something that weirdly enough has been more or less tossed around in the video game space for honestly almost 2 decades now, which is that theory that when video game technology gets so good that it becomes on par to stuff that's being used in film and television, that we could see these tools being shared. It's finally happening. The thing that pie in the sky idea from 1999 is finally real. It's not only this too, because we also saw it as the years progressed with companies using Unreal Engine 4 or 5, I guess now. Unreal Engine in their production, such as The Mandalorian. We're there. We've finally gotten there after years of the companies kind of developing parallel strategies for effects. They finally met. They finally met because video game technology has gotten that good. It's crazy.
I don't like that to Unity though.
Well, what's wrong with Unity? What do you have against Unity?
I maybe it's just the name and the kind of the projects that people back Unity with. It's always seen as subpar when you compare it to like Unreal.
I think that's almost a good thing because I think the difference that they have is one is very accessible and cheap, and the other one is high price tag.
Well, that's what Unity has. That it's very accessible that anyone can. I think it's an open software where anyone can use Unity.
I think there's open versions of it. I think there is like a very, very low entry point version of Unity that anybody can kind of use. I think there are tiers, but I think that that's a good thing is what I'm saying. I think that having something so accessible become as powerful as this and show that it's actually become a player in this space is really heartening to me because it means that something that it's not necessarily like just catering to the big companies. And the fact that it's so powerful now really shows how far it's come, which is cool.
Using the Adobe Creative Cloud as the example, there's going to be several tiers to their game developing, which is the free basic one, the all Unity software,
Yeah.
And then above that is the Weta software.
Yeah, I think that this is their opportunity to kind of get in with the bigger names, your Naughty Dogs, your Microsofts, your high profile, big graphics intensive studios to try to work with Unity on their projects as well. It's neat. It's a power move. And
this is them directly competing with Unreal.
Yeah. I mean, they've always kind of been in a way. But
yeah, but this is
now
them like stepping up to the big boy play.
On a AAA level.
Yep.
The big boy play. It's like this thing. Anyway, neat story. Yep. I think this is, like I say, culmination of something that's been kind of percolating under the surface.
And something that we'll see that come to fruition in probably a year or two.
Yeah.
As the tools from Weta become more accessible to other people.
Right. Cool. Very cool. All right, let's talk about some future bits. We have come from the future to deliver you some bits.
And let me tell you, the future is still changing.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Subject to change. Some of these things not super confirmed. But let's hop right into it. First up, MGM is winning an auction for an untitled buddy cop comedy action pitch. That's all genres in the blender there.
Yes.
Set in Hawaii that will pair Jason Momoa, media vote favorite Jason Momoa.
Yep.
He's
sipping.
What's the term? Bottomless. He's bottomless here. With Dave Bautista. So 2 media vote favorites there. But won't shoot until 2023 due to busy franchise schedules, as you could imagine.
So Momoa is currently filming Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
Bautista is currently filming Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
When they're done with those, they're both going to be filming Dune 2 next year.
Both in that. So maybe wait on this for a little bit. But hey, that sounds like a fun movie. The two of them, buddy cops in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Right.
Jason Momoa is supposed to be wearing a Speedo, and Dave Bautista with his classic board shorts. Wait, no, I think I had that mixed up. Yeah.
There we go.
So swap that.
No one is actually going to be bottomless. I lied. Let's move on. The next bit here. The new live action remake of animated Disney classic Pinocchio. Did we do this already? Will be arriving on Disney Plus in the fiscal fourth quarter of 2022.
Which is next year. And
will pair, of course, Tom Hanks with Robert Zemeckis. Not the first time that has happened.
No. This could either be good, like Forrest Gump, or creepy, like Polar Express.
See, immediately when this is, I came up with, sorry, I'm going to be dredging up an old memory for a lot of people. Remember the ABC movie version of Pinocchio called Geppetto, starring Drew Carey?
Yes.
This is what hit my mind immediately when I saw live action Pinocchio. I thought about Geppetto starring Drew Carey. Anyways.
If you want an idea of what this could look like, go to Apple and watch Finch. Because Tom Hanks creates boy robot. So
which Christy and I saw a trailer. We're like, wait a minute, so this is just Chappie?
Yes, that's what I thought.
Hopefully better than Chappie. That's Finch. All right, let's move on to our next story, which is a neat one. So hey, everybody loves having that argument about whether the Predator series is better than the Alien series or vice versa, right? Everybody loves Predator.
Yeah, especially when you pair them together.
Yeah, but what happened before Predator?
I mean, he was a hunter.
Well, if there was Predators, then there was Prey. Prey, which is a prequel set in the Predator universe, will have an indigenous woman as its lead and will stream on Hulu in the United States in summer 2022. Neat.
Not to be confused with Prey,
the video game. Yeah, it's very different, turns out. But I think it's cute calling a prequel to Predator Prey.
Yes.
Even though we think that
it'd be the other way around.
Whatever. Yeah. All right. Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Well, will no longer be opening on June 24th, 2022. Instead, it will be
pushed back a whole year.
Pushed back a whole year to June 9th, 2023. Also, the new Star Trek movie that Paramount's been working on won't launch on that day, June 9th, 2023. Instead, will be in December 22nd, 2023 to accommodate Transformers. So both big Paramount tentpoles are both moving to another year.
Yeah, they're moving out of 2022 into 2023.
How much of this do you think is polishing on those movies, or how much of this is still worry about the market for the COVID era?
A lot of this is making distance from the previous films, especially if they're going to looking to start a new kind of series with Rise of the Beast,
right?
And with the new Star Trek, which, granted, is still scriptless.
Yeah, we will see. And then here's your little Star Wars update for the week. Rogue Squadron. Again, not the video game, but the film. The Star Wars feature project to be directed by Patty Jenkins, with the goal of starting production in 2022, will also be delayed due to scheduling conflicts. It now has a release date of December 22nd, 2023. Yes, if that sounds familiar, that means a Star Trek and a Star Wars movie could be launching on the exact same day.
Yep.
And while that currently remains in place, dates can always shift, and probably will, because those two cannot coexist.
Yeah, Star Wars will eat the other one.
Can you imagine?
Going to, like, saying, I want to watch the Star fighting one?
Yeah. They're getting a ticket. Yeah, Star Wars? You mean Star Trek? No, I mean Star Wars.
The one where they're in space.
Which one?
The one where they're fighting each other in space.
The J.J. Abrams one. Wait. Anyways.
What was J.J. Abrams producing?
Right, yeah, wait a minute. That's both of them. How did that? That could very well be the case. Let's get out of bits then. That was your future bits for a moment. Let's move into some movie thoughts. You have three very different movies that you watched this week.
We're going to start with the one that ruled the box office.
All right.
Eternals, because the one that I want to talk about the most.
Okay. So I'm going to preface this with what little I know about
Did you see the Eternals?
Obviously, I did not, because I didn't go to a movie theater. Okay, and I have not since before March 2020.
Yes, which means the last movie you saw in theaters was Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, I believe that is the last movie I saw in a theater. Unfortunately, yeah, sucks, right? But okay, here's what I know. It is getting mixed reviews, I think, to put it lightly. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are comparing this rather unfavorably to the feel of a DC universe film as opposed to a Marvel film. And it seems like it is not the direction people want the MCU to go in. What is your reaction to that?
This is a cosmic setting film set on Earth. And I think that is where a lot of people's confusion and unravelment kind of lay. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy is the cosmic MCU. Fully in space, fully enveloped. It's all new worlds. Whereas the Eternals film is that same cosmic scale centered on Earth.
Okay.
Which, give it to credit to Chloe Zhao, this film does a lot to go both big and small. Huge ideas and very intimate.
How are those sunsets?
Oh, sexy.
How's Angelina Jolie?
Not that sexy.
Oh, okay.
But that being said, there is a sex scene in a Marvel film. We get it. It finally happened.
I can't believe it. My sensibilities. I'm offended. Anyway. Okay. So what is Eternals? Who are the Eternals?
Ooh, how deep do you want to go in this?
Very light. Give me the surface pitch. Give me. I've never read a comic book in my life. Pitch of what the Eternals are.
So give you the I'm coming in from the MCU standpoint?
Yeah, basically. If I've only ever seen Avengers movies, tell me who the Eternals
are. Okay, so Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's a different movie, but okay.
Okay. They introduced the Celestials.
Sure.
The Celestials are the beings who wielded the Infinity Stones.
Right, yes, those guys. Yes. They're on that planet just chilling in like a bunch of chairs. Yeah, I remember this now.
Yep. Okay. Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Very different.
Very different.
As
Star-Lord's dad.
Yeah, Star-Lord's dad, Ego, is a Celestial.
All right.
The Celestials, these big bodied, overly huge planet people, created the Eternals.
Okay.
The Eternals are only existing to fight the Deviants. Okay. Which is why we've never seen them in the MCU before.
Who are the Deviants? Do they make fan art and post it online? I've been to their website.
Close.
A lot of questionable things on there. I don't blame the Eternals for wanting to kick their asses. I get it. So, sorry, who's the Deviants?
So, in basic summary, Eternals and Deviants can be summed up as angels and demons.
Ah, I see. My favorite Dan Brown book.
Yes.
Sorry.
Not to be confused with Angels and Airwaves.
I promise I'll shut up. Sorry, continue.
So that's the basic premise of these are deity-like, godlike figures, the Eternals, fighting these hellish beasts called the Deviants.
Okay.
And that's your basic premise.
All right.
So what this film does is it throws out the traditional sense of what Marvel is, which is character-based.
Yeah.
And they're only super because of the suits.
Right. It's less about the personalities of these people, knowing them as people first, and more about like, these are just gods and they're wrecking people's shit.
And yeah, that's what it is. These are gods among men. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we really haven't seen full scale in the MCU.
Yeah.
In terms of a timeline.
At least not for your heroes. I think you have that in the villains.
Yes.
Like Thanos, for example, is very much that.
Right. And Malekith.
Like ridiculous god who just is overpowered and like just exists to be evil.
Right. Well,
I guess Thanos is a little bit of an exception because there is some pathos there,
yes,
but not a lot.
Also, Thanos,
yeah,
in comic book lore, this is where things can get about very muddy.
Right? Is he technically an Eternal?
He's technically an Eternal.
Okay.
But he looks the way he does because he has a deviant strain gene.
Of course he does.
I
played Metroid Dread. I get this. Spoiler, possibly for Metroid Dread. Anyways.
So this is where so what the Eternals is doing is entering that comic book space of this might be too weird for me. And that's what people are starting to get into.
All right.
And I think that's where you see a lot of these polarizing and different views of, well, I like the concept of Eternals, but I don't like how it fits in with the MCU.
Yeah, it doesn't fit like a glove. It's more like, this is also happening over here, but it feels too separated. It feels too It's not grounded, ironically enough, because as you said, they try to ground it on Earth here to have some sort of semblance of relation. But yeah, you're right. Thematically, it's so different than what they delivered before.
And that's where a lot of these complaints are coming in. That's where you get these polarizing opposite views.
Yeah.
I am in the view of it is a very great looking film.
Sure.
It looks great. It plays rather fast.
Okay.
Surprising
for a movie that's probably 2.5 hours. Yeah.
But the action is constantly moving forward.
Yeah.
There's constant stuff happening. About by the end of the first act, I was able to recognize who all the 10 new characters were and what all their 10 powers were.
Yeah. Which
you have to establish and is hard to do when you're introducing people from a zero-based knowledge.
Which kind of, tie back to the show I did last week and also our conversation about Dune that we had with you. I think Dune does that as well. I think it's a long movie, but it doesn't feel as long as it is because it does enough to familiarize with the situation and clearly delineates who everybody is, where you don't feel lost. You don't feel like you're missing any of the plot. And good to hear that something like Eternals can do the same thing.
Yeah. So, wrapping it all up, because we have a lot to get to. I like Eternals.
Okay.
Right. Might be one of my favorites of Phase 4 so far.
Okay. I mean, there hasn't been that many, but...
Right. I mean, when you're comparing it to Shang-Chi and Black Widow...
Yeah. Okay, all right.
It's currently my favorite, until Spider-Man comes out.
What's your read on the DC Universe comparisons? People saying that it feels more like DC.
I mean, your main hero is basically the stand-in for Superman.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Flash in there with someone who's a speedster.
Yeah.
You have a healer in there, someone like Martian Manhunt.
So does it feel like Justice League?
Yeah, there are Justice League bits if you choose to look at it that way.
Yeah.
I can. There is the comparison that can be made.
And do you think that really is just as much just about they're not humans? they're not relatable on that level like the MCU heroes.
But here's the spin I'm going to put for all you people saying that it's DC.
All right, based. Entering the spin zone. Got it. Let's do it.
These heroes of the Eternals have been around for literal thousands of years since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Because they've been around since the beginning of time, their stories have evolved over the course of all of humanity.
Right.
Being that the stuff that they accomplished back then has become has become lore.
Sure, yes.
And what are lore and myth and mythology. So that's why they have like very mythological names, like Icarus and Gilgamesh and Athena.
Yeah.
So what are comic books but present day mythology?
All right, we're going here. Okay. I guess I get what you're saying, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, all right, but it also has to be an entertaining movie, and that's where I think people maybe get a little muddled in it, where it's like it's the vampire problem, right? Vampire stories have the same issue, which is like, okay, they're hundreds of years old, they lived through like both world wars, like they have all this knowledge, you're supposed to accept and relate to them, but it makes it way harder, and it makes them less human feeling because they are not modern people in the way that we think of modern people. So I don't blame anybody for that disconnect. And it makes it much, much harder to make you care about the characters. So what do they try to do? They try to do anything to make them personable? Like, are they funny? Like, are they like clever? Like, do they, any of the characters rank on your like favorite MCU characters list? Or are they all just super weirdos?
They don't rank high because no one stands out above the other. So I put them all in a group of Eternals.
That sucks.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. Is like I think that's why people are having a hard time with this movie.
Right. There's no one standout like, oh, this person's going to go get their solo film now.
You're not going to see Angelina Jolie get her own spinoff here.
No, but that does bring up an interesting point, though, with Kit Harington being in this movie.
Okay.
Does not need to be in this movie.
All right. What's up with Kit Harington?
He's solely in this film to set up a eventual spin-off MCU film called in comic books it's called Midnight Suns.
What they're basing that game on.
Yes. Where like it has like Black Knight, Blade, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, a couple other. I think Doctor Strange like is in and out of there, but they deal with like the supernatural threats.
Sure. Okay.
And that's literally all he's in here for.
Just to plant that seed.
Just to plant that seed of, we're going to plant this here, so in like 3 to 5 years when...
Aren't they doing a Blade
movie? The Blade movie comes out.
I was going to say, because I just saw some casting news. I don't remember the guy they cast, but they did cast...
Yeah, so when Blade actually comes out, they can say, hey...
It's going to be that too.
See? Yeah. See how it connects here? Because we planted it like way back when?
And that's another, and the last thing that let's talk about for Eternals before we move on is that question about like, is this movie a transitional movie in the way that a lot of these MCU films are, where this exists to pivot, this exists to introduce a new wrinkle to the MCU that they will delve into in future movies?
This is their pivot of making that Celestials and kind of like God bodies of God body tier hierarchy that is in the comic books.
Yeah.
Circle back to Earth and like combine
those
while Guardians of the Galaxy
kind of
like basically skipped over that surface.
Yeah.
When dealing with Thanos and the Infinity Wars.
But this is them diving in. This is them being like, no, actually, this part of the Marvel Universe matters, and we're going to tell you why it matters.
Yes.
Then we're going to make it make sense.
It's part
later.
of their like 3-pronged attack of having Earth-based threats,
cosmic
threats, and then the supernatural threats.
Oh boy! Do you think they're biting off more than they can chew with this? Do you think this is going to get too complicated and is going to lose audiences? Do you think
this is what the doctor said too?
Do you think that this is maybe a jump the shark moment that we're going to look back in 5 years and be like, Oh, that's when they lost the plot. That's when audiences started disconnecting because it just got too complicated.
So this is how I explained it to the doctor as we were coming out of it.
All right.
Because she had the same question of, if I don't really care about any of this, do I have to watch every single film?
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
Yeah.
And that's what the comic books eventually did, where they have these massive team-ups of the Avengers or Secret Wars or like Civil War or Battle Earth.
Right, but you can opt into whatever worlds you're comfortable with.
Yes.
Like if you just want to watch the Earth stuff, if you just want to watch the supernatural stuff, you'll find your niche.
Yes, and they use those big kind of events where you're basically reintroduced to characters that you may not be familiar with.
Yeah.
Like people who may have missed on the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
When they saw them in Infinity War. Like, they're kind of funny and I kind of like them. Let me go and watch those 2 films now and catch up.
And that all makes sense, and that's all well and good in the comic book world. But my worry is that Disney's not going to have the restraint to make that accessible. You know what I mean? Where it's like they're going to make it important that you watch everything because it's a business. Quote, or patent pending. So my worry there is that they're going to plant seeds in every single movie, so you have to watch all of them, and you feel like you're missing out if you don't. I don't think we're going to get to the point where Disney thinks it's okay for somebody to pop in Call of Duty Madden style and only watch 2 movies whenever they want to.
Ant-Man is a perfect example of this. They've already done it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people went into Endgame and Infinity War and were super confused about the Ant-Man stuff because they didn't see Ant-Man.
Yes, but you can go back and watch it.
You can, but what I'm saying is that you had to understand the context. What I'm saying is I don't think Disney has the ability to be like, that's optional. They don't want to say that. They don't want you to think that. They want you to think everything is important.
Yes, but just because it's important doesn't mean it's mandatory to watch right now.
I guess, but I think that they want you to think that it is. And that's
how they get eyes on it.
I'm worried that they're not going to let it be a niche thing because it's too expensive and too big to fail.
We'll talk about that in the TV section.
And we have to move on. So let's talk about the other movies you saw this week.
So these 2 films are on Netflix, and I can combine them both into one review because they're basically the same thing.
All right.
Army of Thieves and Red Notice.
Okay.
Both are heist films.
Oh, all right. You love a heist film.
Yes.
Okay.
One deals with safecracking.
All right.
The other deals with ancient artifacts.
Oh, all right.
The safe is also technically an ancient artifact.
Fine. Okay.
One is a thoughtful heist film. One is a shooter heist film.
All right. So one's more action-y than the other.
One has relatively unknown actors in it. One
has all the stars.
So
I'm guessing that Army of Thieves is the more thinky, no one you know in it movie.
Unless you watched Army of the Dead.
Right.
Then the safecracker is in there is in this one.
Yeah. And then Red Notice is the one where they actually spent to get Gal Gadot and
and The Rock and
that's the action.
The Ryan.
Right.
Yeah. What? the one that has the superheroes in them, not being superheroes.
Exactly. Are they good?
No.
Neither of these movies is good.
Like I said, your mileage will vary on both of these because one, an Army of Thieves, I like the lore they had behind it. Like it deals with like Wagner and like his and some guy obsessed with Wagner who created vaults based on Wagner's like orchestrated pieces.
Okay.
And someone being brought into the criminal world.
Okay.
It's interesting. I kind of like that.
But
then there's Red Notice, which has all the action in it, and like all the fun and the odd couple pairing that you come to expect from films like this.
Sounds like you want them to be combined into one movie.
I want them both to do better.
Yeah. Okay.
They both can do better.
All right.
Which ultimately means they both fall kind of middling.
Yeah.
They have potential.
Hear that, The Rock? We're telling you to do better. You're not good enough.
They're both kind of middling films where it's like, oh, that was a fun heist film. Yeah. I enjoyed my time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's certain elements where it could have been done better. I think Red Notice had too many set pieces where it's like, okay, now we need to have them fight or we need a set piece here because we haven't done anything in a couple minutes in or a couple pages and like, oh, we're in this location because we want to do this kind of set piece here. We're running through the jungle or running on top of rooftops or whatever. Now they're fighting in like a treasure room. It's set pieces.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't have set pieces, but it has a lot more interesting character development with the team.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more, it feels a lot more personal of a film, even though it is kind of back end ties into Army of the Dead.
Huh. Okay.
Which I feel like they only did after the fact. Like, oh, we have the script here.
Yeah.
That we can like force it in as a prequel to this film. And just like change a couple of things, like, oh, boom, like set in the same universe.
Okay. All right.
But they both can do better.
Yeah. Well, all right. So those seem like solid, like, I don't know, if you're bored on a Saturday afternoon, maybe stream it.
If you're missing a heist film,
right?
Or if you liked Army of the Dead and you kind of want more of that,
something in that universe,
something in that kind of
sounds like you're almost like leaning a little bit more towards Army of Thieves.
Well, because with Red Notice, I expected more, I expected better, and I just didn't get it.
Okay, fair enough. All right, those were 3 movies.
Yep.
Let's talk about something else. Let's move into television, where we're going to talk about sports in the Sports Corner. All right, let's jump right into it. As you mentioned at the top of the show, you were in Arizona for some NASCAR action, specifically the NASCAR Championship. Kyle Larson completed his comeback tour and won. How was that?
Mixed emotions.
All right.
Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
AKA Speed Racist.
Yes, that guy.
That guy.
Not a fan.
Well, see, this is where the mixed emotions come in. Because prior to 2020, I was a fan of Kyle Larson. Mainly because of Brie Larson. I was like, oh, Larson.
No relation.
No relation, but probably like one of the worst reasons to like a driver. But
absolutely.
Like, you know what? I mean, it's fine to think with, oh, I like their car, so I'm going to root for them.
Right, yeah. Well, he drives a Toyota. That's pretty rad. I love Toyota.
Like,
Toyotas.
That guy drives the Ford Fusion. I drive a Ford Fusion. That guy drives now. Probably like one of the worst reasons to like up there and like choosing a driver.
Sure.
But he was my driver.
And sure enough, it was the worst reason because he ended up being terrible. So, but however, he has won this.
Yeah, so he sat out the 2020 season.
Yeah.
Basically got kicked out of NASCAR for a year, had to go take classes, did a bunch of truck races, some dirt races, got picked up this year by Jeff Gordon's team, and started winning all the NASCAR races and ended up winning the NASCAR championship. Does it excuse what he did? No. Do I want to root for him? No, but this is like where the like,
and this is always something that comes up.
The trouble is
this is where the trouble comes up with sports often is that you want so badly to be like excited in the moment when something exciting happens in a sport, and in order to do that, sometimes you do need to produce a little cognitive dissonance and think about the sport and the idea of enjoying the sport separate from the person who is involved, which is really hard when you get to sports that are about individual people, like NASCAR. Or a quarterback on a football team, or when it's about like an Olympic competitor, it becomes so personalized about that person's performance that you can't abstract it very easily. And NASCAR has that problem probably more so than a lot of other sports. Golf comes to mind, for example. I think people went through this with Tiger Woods for a long time, and only now is it starting to get a little less cloudy. But now it's very cloudy for Kyle Larson.
Because he's literally coming off a year later from this incident.
It hasn't been long. It's still in people's consciousness.
Yeah.
Also, of course, you also have to keep in mind that NASCAR as an entity is also a very conservative sport. It's very popular in southern states. There's also that element to it. So it almost feels like fitting in a way that somebody with Kyle Larson's views would be successful in that universe. So there's also that kind of baggage with NASCAR too, where you have to separate it almost like, am I enjoying this because it's exciting racing, or is there more going on here? How do I walk that tightrope?
Like I said, if this happened 2 years ago, I would have been ecstatic.
I'd
be buying like all the Kyle Larson stuff. Like, oh yeah, he's my driver now and forever. Like next 5 years, 5 championships.
I mean, even the World Series, which we should actually talk about because we technically haven't talked about.
Well, we talked about it.
I talked about it a little bit last week. We just did talk. You just didn't talk about it. But it was kind of that same feeling about the World Series because, like, as much as you wanted to root for Atlanta, they are still called the Braves.
Yep.
And their fans still do that job. And it's very hard to be excited when that much baggage is involved.
And then on the other side of that, if you want to root for the Astros, you have the entire
the cheating scandal on your back.
That's still relevant and fresh.
So yeah, it's like that's the dichotomy of sports, right? Is that it's always, because it involves real people in real world dealing with real issues, you have to constantly have that battle between the excitement of the sport and the reality of the world we live in. And it's hard. It's very hard to divide those two. But, yeah, interesting though.
Yeah.
But I almost said congratulations, but I'm like, no, I don't know if I should say congratulations.
Yeah.
I guess congratulations to NASCAR fans who had a good time is what I will say.
Yes.
Yes.
I gave them the 3 claps.
Exactly. Yeah. That's all.
I was like, okay.
If you had a good time watching the race, good for you.
It was a fun race.
Yes,
it was a good race.
Exactly.
All top four finalists finished the top 4 at the end.
Yes.
Which is great to see.
It's great to see.
Great weekend overall. Cool. Saw all the truck races, all the Xfinity races. I have a new favorite driver who's currently in the Xfinity, so hopefully he comes back up to the NASCAR race.
Hopefully.
And that'll be my new favorite driver, aside from the Watermelon Man.
Watermelon Man. So good.
Ross Chastain and his Watermelon Man.
I saw that shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good. That's like, we all have our separate drivers, but we all root for Ross. Watermelon Man.
It's so good. Okay, well, if you thought we were done talking about complicated people in sports, you were wrong because we have a big one.
Real quick, with NASCAR on the back of it, even though it technically won't happen until the start of the next season, NASCAR will be clamping down on any of the Let's Go branded shirts that feature NASCAR logos.
Okay.
And said that going forward, they will try to distance themselves from any political messages, which is a stark contrast from the previous 3 years.
It really, really is. Mm-hmm. That sucks.
Yep. That announcement was made during the championship weekend, saying after that weekend that they're going to start distancing themselves as much as they can or want to away from political messaging.
Oh boy,
and we'll see how that goes because
They
did the same thing with the Confederate flag last year.
They did. Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's move on.
That was this year, wasn't it?
That was this year.
Yep.
It's been a long ass year. All right, let's move on to like I said, another little bit of a scandal in the sports world. We mentioned it briefly a couple weeks ago. Now we actually have the full story for you, more or less. This is talking about Kyle Beach and his alleged sexual assault by Chicago Blackhawks video coach Brad Aldrich. Happened in 2010, but was not revealed until last month. An investigation conducted by the law firm Jenner and Block revealed Blackhawks management and coaches were aware of the allegations, yet did not alert the authorities while keeping Aldrich employed until the team won the Stanley Cup. During a news conference last Monday, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman said, quote, "The culture of hockey does not encourage, in fact, prohibits this type of activity." I believe you could just count him as Captain Obvious with that quote.
But,
big but, the league is slapping a $2 million fine, just $2 million, on the Blackhawks compared to the Devils' $3 million fine for circumventing the salary cap in 2010, which of course broadcasts a very different message than that quote. So how do you read this situation? This looks real bad.
Oh, it's super bad. But also, this is something that it's just going to be swept under the rug unless a megaphone gets behind it.
Sure.
Much of this, I mean, people want to turn a blind eye to this, and that's the sad reality of the fact.
And it's a complicated story, right? Because it's a lot of elements here that are not usually the case in sports stories. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of them is the perpetrator of this is not a player; it's a coach. Also, this is a male-on-male sexual assault situation. not a lot of cases like this are seen, at least publicly, in sports. I mean, they'll probably be more common going forward as people get more comfortable and more these stories start spreading because of something like this.
That people are able to speak out to it.
Right, exactly. But it's not common, so you still see that uncomfortable layer of people being like, "Should we be talking about this?" But the NHL here, you're right, sending mixed messages. The commissioner wants to say that they show like a zero tolerance policy for this kind of thing, but the money does not, like the actual punishment does not match.
Right. Not only does the money not match, but they can say that we prohibit this.
Yeah.
Yet it was allowed to go on for the entire year that they won the championship.
And the fact this is a decade-old story is really worrying, because it means that the NHL buried this.
Right. When this happened, Kyle Beach was a rookie when this happened. He's currently playing abroad in the European League.
Okay.
But this still happened under not just the Blackhawks watch, which they were alerted to, but did nothing.
Yeah.
But you would assume that if they knew, it means they either withheld it from the NHL.
Yes.
Or the NHL knew and didn't do anything about it.
Yes.
Or worse, NHL knew.
Yeah.
And decided not to punish.
You're right,
or just
exactly.
say like, oh.
And said like, well,
go solve it on your own.
Yeah,
we don't want any word over this.
No, we don't want to talk about it. Yeah, and all three scenarios are bad. None of those are good, right? Like you can't look at any in this with any lens and be like they made the right decision. Nobody did. And so this sucks in a lot of ways. And if this but Brad Aldrich needs to be actually punished here in some sort of way.
Yep.
And it doesn't seem like $2 million is enough of a punishment. It doesn't make any sense. It sucks. It's a bad story. Of course, it's still an evolving story. As this, like you said, if this gets some strong voices behind it, and maybe the NHL will do more, but that's a big maybe.
Right. The fact that, I mean, I hate to say this, but Kyle Beach is not a big name.
Right. That also hurts the story, right?
Yes.
It hurts this being
also,
seen.
when the captains from the Blackhawks team, who are still representative of Blackhawks management right now, basically their statements were kind of non-statements of it happened.
Right.
I'm still trying to figure it out. Even though I was there and I lived it and I perpetuated it.
Yeah, and kept it a secret, right? Because that's the unspoken thing, is that if it happened and you were there, like the fact you didn't, your silence speaks volumes in that case.
It was in the interview, it was said that teammates knew about this because they would constantly tease Kyle about it.
Okay, that's rough.
Yes. So while most players can feint that, oh, it's just a joke that we did with him.
But that's not a joke.
That's not a joke, though.
It's not a joke.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So yeah, well, I guess we'll have updates if there are further updates here. But for now, it's just lousy. Now it just
and that's why it kind of took us a while to get to the story, because slow bits came out here and there as the story broke and people were allowed to speak on it.
So again, just like the Eternals, just like the heist movies, the NHL, you can do better. You can do better. That's the theme for this week. You can do better. Come on, NHL.
Okay, speaking of doing better, we're not done with terrible sports stories yet.
Yeah, sports, dark week. Robert Sarver, the Suns and Mercury majority owner, was the subject of last week's lengthy ESPN report that prompted an NBA investigation. He stands accused of misogyny, racism, and creating a toxic work environment in Phoenix. This is, of course, reminiscent of Donald Sterling's investigation that shook the Clippers back in 2014.
Yep. Same kind of management talk. There's videos of it. There's audio recordings of it. Not too dissimilar to the John Gruden story.
Yeah.
Which John Gruden is now suing the NFL for letting that happen in the league.
It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah. Just like, if you didn't want it to get out, don't be that kind of person.
Right, exactly. Like you can't take it back now.
Like, it stops with you. If you don't want it out, you don't send it. You don't put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
but you can't say it's a bad reflection when it's literally just holding up a mirror to you.
Again, this is also a similar story. If his let's say approach to his style, his management style here was really this way for so long. It's amazing that it took this while to come out. Like, it's amazing that the NBA didn't know, or if they did know, similar to the NHL, didn't do anything about it.
Right.
Like, stories presumably have been probably circulating the league for a while, right?
When one of the co-owners for the Suns died, his wife basically had everyone come over. It wasn't a eulogy, but more of a roast. So there's audio and video recording of Robert Sarver roasting his friend. But in that, he's basically telling stories of everything that they did, from chasing cheerleaders to jizzing in Steve Stash's sock to other stuff. Okay, that wasn't necessarily jizzing. He said left DNA in his sock.
That's still disgusting.
Yes.
No matter what, DNA comes from weird places. You don't want any DNA in your sock. From anywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, that sucks. But you're right. Like, there's stuff out there. You can find it. And the fact that, nobody said anything, it's worrying.
Yep.
So NBA, hey, you can do better too. Everybody can do better.
And lastly, the person who can do better is Mr. QAnon. QAnon Rodgers. More news of Aaron Rodgers came out and taking advice from Joe Rogan. I'm sorry. Quote, my good friend, Joe Rogan.
I like how we have gone. 2021 has been interesting for Aaron Rodgers, right? I feel like we all did a 180. He guest hosts Jeopardy. Everybody's like, man, he would be pretty good at this.
Why? Well, it was like, why?
Yeah, but then he did it, and he was like, actually, he's all right. Actually, he's all right. We can see Aaron Rodgers, and then immediately this, pow.
And then he ruled like the offseason of the will he, won't he return to the Packers.
Yeah.
And now this.
Just all in the garbage. Just like, all right, Aaron, sorry. We're not giving you a pass anymore. Quarterback joke. Sorry. Like, it's just, I've never seen a 180 this quick. Like,
also, the team's only being fined like $14,000 for allowing him to play
regardless
to play Kate.
Yeah. Wow, sports.
But there's brighter news though.
Okay.
One silver lining: the Detroit Lions did not lose last week.
Hey! Congratulations to the Lions.
They also did not play last week.
Well done. Also, just a quick mention: if you're watching some postseason baseball news, awards were given out. Some Golden Gloves and
Silver Sluggers. But the four big awards, the Cy Young, the MVP, the rookie, and the coach, will be next week.
Yes.
They'll each have their own day. The finalists have been revealed. With, I think it goes rookie, coach, Cy Young, and then MVP on Thursday. So next week,
we'll know.
We may be crowning Ohtani as MVP.
Fingers crossed. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
But in that case, we're done. We're done with sports. We're done with sports. And we get to move on to two stories that are really just one giant story, because if you were watching the internet, you would know it was Disney Plus Day.
AKA Disney Plus second anniversary.
Basically. Disney Plus Day. So here's a bunch of news about Disney Plus and what's to come.
It's just all Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's all Disney.
That's all the news was.
It was just
all it was.
If you haven't already subscribed to Disney Plus,
one, what's wrong with you?
Sure. But two, you can do so for just $1.99 for the month of November for new accounts. Here's what's new coming soon.
Well, coming as of yesterday, because yesterday was Disney Plus Day.
We will see the everybody can watch it Disney Plus version of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yep.
Also, Jungle Cruise will be released on the service as well. Home Sweet Home Alone, which is a series?
No, that's a new
movie.
film.
It's a spin-off movie based on the Home Alone franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Short films Olaf Presents, featuring Olaf, the snowman from Frozen.
Yep.
Frozen Fever, also Frozen.
That's the already released special or short film.
Feast.
My all-time favorite Pixar short.
Paperman.
My all-time favorite Disney short.
Home. I read that. Get a Horse.
I think this one came out before Wreck-It Ralph.
That was the Mickey Mouse short.
One.
The Oscar-winning Mickey Mouse short that came out before Wreck-It Ralph. Ciao Alberto, which is a new short in the Luca universe. And a new short from The Simpsons, which I believe is also a Disney Plus Day kind of riff.
Yes. That one I watched. It's short, 5 minutes. They're just riffing on all the Disney properties.
Sure. Yeah. And so that's all they do now.
Why not?
Also, MCU fans will get to experience certain titles in IMAX's extended aspect ratio at home with IMAX Enhanced on Disney Plus. Here, let me go into ad copy voice. With IMAX Enhanced on Disney Plus, the IMAX's expanded aspect ratio across 13 Marvel titles will become the default aspect ratio at 191, offering up to 26% more picture for select sequences, meaning more of the action is visible on screen as the filmmakers intended. The 13 titles available at launch include the Disney Plus premiere of Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, in addition to Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, and Black Widow. Quote, Disney, Marvel Studios, and IMAX have collaborated for years to bring the world's most popular films to the big screen. And on Friday, we'll start to bring IMAX technology to subscribers with IMAX Enhanced Viewing in the Disney Plus app, said Michael Paul, with an extra L, president of Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. Quote, we're thrilled to create new value for Marvel fans and audiences on Disney Plus, and we're looking forward to offering even more IMAX Enhanced functionality in the future.
IMAX is considered the default now when you start a Disney Plus film. You can choose to switch it in the version to a widescreen format. Mm-hmm. But what's nice is when you do, it gives you a visual representation of what that will look like.
Cool.
Based on the film. With Shang-Chi, IMAX, it's him doing the pose with all 10 rings. In the widescreen version, it cuts off some of the rings on the top and bottom.
I will give this a shot. I have the TV for it, so I will check this out.
Yes,
it'll be really, really cool to see like IMAX footage in 4K. I'm excited to see. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to our second half of Disney Plus stories, because honestly, there's not a whole lot to talk about there.
It was just IMAX. It's new IMAX now.
New IMAX. Let's talk about the Marvel part of this, even though we kind of already talked about some Marvel stuff. But what about new shit that's going to be on Disney Plus in the Marvel
stuff that was announced as coming exclusively to Disney Plus?
Well, they showed off first footage for upcoming live-action shows Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Ms. Marvel.
All that we already knew was in production.
Right. All as part of a Marvel Studios special. Among the newly announced projects are X-Men 97, which, as you may have guessed, continues the story of the beloved 1990s animated X-Men series.
Yep.
Neat.
Funny enough, I watched that. Yep. I recently watched all that all the way through.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It does end up leaving on a cliffhanger, which is Professor X being lost in the alternate zone and kind of the X-Men going on their own way. So this will continue that as the X-Men live their life and then eventually try and find a way to bring Professor X back.
Cool. So
also the guitar riffs.
Classic theme song. Every kid who grew up in the 90s knows that theme song.
Yeah.
The next thing they announced was Spider-Man: A Freshman Year. It will be an animated show exploring Peter Parker on his way to becoming the MCU Spider-Man. One note that I thought was really cool about this is that they got Jeff Trammell, a lead writer on Craig of the Creek on Cartoon Network, will be heading the writing team for this as well.
Nice.
Very cool, because he's a very good guy, and I'm happy to see him get work on something that's near and dear to his heart. And then there's Marvel Zombies from director Brian Andrews, which reimagines the Marvel Universe as a new generation of heroes fights a zombie plague, of course. This is based on a long-running zombie variant of the Marvel Universe comic series that's been going on.
Yep. They tested the waters with the what-if story of the zombies, and people liked it, so
they're gonna do it.
This is what happens. And remember when I said, "Hey, this is the what if stories of like they're testing the program."
Program. Sure enough. The studio also confirmed a number of series and specials already known to be in the works, including the Hawkeye spinoff, which is soon, I believe. Echo, Catherine Hahn's WandaVision spinoff titled Agatha House of Harkness, and an I Am Groot animated show, and a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Yep.
All right. Sounds like a good slate of shit if you're a Marvel fan. But man, this is a lot of Marvel stuff.
Remember when I literally just talked about how the Eternals kind of split off, and it's like a pick and choose. Like, we're just going to put all this out there.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch all of it, but it's there if you want
to. I guess.
None of this is going to be important to like the overall plus that you want to watch. But if you're following like specific characters or specific storylines, this is kind of more where they're going to do it.
I have to say, though,
it's a lot.
It's a lot, and also I feel like none of this is for me.
It's fine.
Which is fine, but it's weird. Like now, Disney Plus as an entity is like at least their new stuff is just not catering to anything I'm interested in. Which is
looking at all those titles, all those lead characters outside of X-Men '97 and Spider-Man freshman year, all of them are considered C and D list characters.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if they're trying to make that no longer the case. If they're trying to make like a case for these smaller niches of the MCU and make them matter.
I mean, that's what happened with Iron Man. He was a B-list character.
Right.
And they made him an A-list star.
Yeah.
And he's still an A-list star. I mean, because
I think
Spider-Man is the S class.
I was going to say, the exceptions here, I think, are the X-Men and the Spider-Man projects, because those are big
and Fantastic deals. Four. They are the S class when I'm talking about here.
I need to see your tier list.
My tier list, yes. Our Marvel character tier list.
Let's do it. All right. Let's move on. You have some thoughts to get through. Let's walk through these TV series that you watched this week.
All right. So, real quickly, we mentioned Olaf Presents.
Yeah.
It is Olaf doing his quickest rendition of Disney's greatest hits.
Oh, so just like the recap thing he does in Frozen 2.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's all it is. And he does do Disney's greatest hits of Lion King, Little Mermaid, Moana, Tangled.
Okay.
I think that's it. No, shit, I'm missing one because there's 5. I'm missing one, but yeah. It's Disney stuff. It's Josh Gad's
Disney stuff.
It's Josh Gad's reason to come back as Olaf.
Sure. I mean, it seems entertaining. It seems like fun stuff that a little for the millennial kids or millennial parents, and a little for the kids that are watching it with them.
Yep. It's for the kids.
Sure, it's for the kids.
All right. Also Disney Plus, real quick. I finished the season finale of Doogie Kamehameha Aloha. Season 1 came out.
How'd that hit by the end?
More family than Doctor Show.
Yeah.
By the end.
Yeah.
More personalized and less. I'm doing doctor stuff, which
it's fine.
It's fine. I mean, it's not essentially what I'm going for. But then again, if I really wanted doctor stuff, there's adult doctor stuff on TV.
You're getting your procedurals from other network shows.
Yeah. So it's fine. I really loved that they shot in Hawaii. I think it was on the island of Oahu, and got a lot of that location into it.
That's cool.
I loved it. It was really special in that aspect. And if you're coming back from Hawaii and like want more Hawaii,
here it is on your TV screen.
Yep.
Cool.
But it was fun. I liked all the character interactions.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to season 2 when it comes out.
Cool.
And lastly, I caught up on Inside Job per your recommendation.
All right. Because I didn't really recommend it, but I said you should try it.
So, because I ended up getting stuck in an airport.
Sure.
Story for another time.
Yeah, not on the podcast.
I was able to just watch a bunch of Netflix stuff because I had the time. So I was like, okay, Inside Job. Let's fire it up and see what happens.
Okay.
I got to the end.
All right.
I watched the whole thing. The jokes come pretty fast.
Sure.
Super animated, lots of gag-heavy stuff. Didn't quite capture me by the end as like I really care about these characters, but also at the end, it did a soft reboot on itself at the end of season 1.
Weird. Okay.
So I know you didn't watch it, but spoilers.
Sure.
The dad gets brought back into the agency because they like the dynamic of the father-son.
Okay. Or father-daughter.
Father-daughter, yeah.
Weird. Okay.
So he gets brought back as the new head because they try and give Reagan the head job, and she can't handle the pressure.
Yeah. Clearly.
So they bring in someone who can handle the pressure and who knows the agency, which is the dad character.
So that's interesting to me because I feel like that's either one of two things, right? They're hedging their bets to see if they don't get renewed.
Yep.
Or they're being like, well, we like this character. We want him to stay, like both of them to stay in the narrative. So why not?
Right. And it seemed really hard for them, or very awkward for them, to keep having the dad character
drag him
into these storylines when he no longer works at the office.
It's a tough thing that they have to write around. That they don't have to write around now, which is smart.
So that's what I'm saying. The soft reboot.
But did you end up liking it? How do you feel about it? Are you looking forward to a season 2 if they do one?
Not a whole lot. There's other adult animated shows that I'm more looking forward to.
Yeah, there's something about it. Like I said 2 weeks ago, that feels like it's somewhere in the middle for me, and it doesn't go too far enough in either direction. It's not goofy enough to be fun and goofy and inventive.
It doesn't.
But it's not. But it's also because it's too raunchy. But it's also not raunchy enough to go in that direction fully either. It's like they are waffling a little bit.
For me, it's the conspiracy theory. Either it's all a joke or none of it's a joke.
And you can't do that because if you do either of those, it's not the show, right? And so it has to. Yeah, you're right. It has to kind of teeter on that, and it's to its detriment. A conspiracy theory, again, it's like what I said 2 weeks ago. It's like a conspiracy theory show in 2021 just feels weird. It doesn't feel right.
Speaking of things that are weird, it doesn't feel right. Big Mouth season 5.
Oh boy! All right, so you have a long history with this show. You are pretty positive on it, generally speaking. But I feel like with season 4, your takeaway was like, yeah, it's still good, but like,
do I care anymore?
Its shtick is getting a little old. Yeah. You were feeling like a little burnt out on the concept. Yes. So how does season 5 react to that?
They actually picked a theme and they stuck with it through the whole season.
That's good.
And I liked that.
All right.
It wasn't kind of jumping around, and I mean that's kind of what I liked with season 3, where it introduced the doubt character.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's good. I like that. Like a through line for all episodes.
Sure.
Big Mouth season 5 does the same thing, where the through line is about love.
Okay.
They get bit with the love bug. So love can take on many forms, whether like you love someone, you don't know where you love, and self-love turning into self-hate as well, where you don't feel like you're loving yourself enough.
Sure.
So this season in particular kind of put like a mirror up to that kind of aspect of love and its interesting forms that it can take.
Yeah.
Between like a love bug and a hate worm. And they're kind of two sides of the same coin, where depending on which kind of mouth you feed, it's going to go either one way or the other for you.
Okay.
In the middle, it does break away from its traditional narrative storytelling and does a Christmas special.
Sure. Just like Ted Lasso.
Just randomly right in the middle, we're going to do a Christmas special.
Just like Ted Lasso. Weird.
Yeah. So that episode, like, taken out of here because it's just like the one-off gags that they do on it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed season 5 more than season 4. I think they learned from their mistakes from season 4.
Maybe so.
And kind of corrected it here.
That's good.
I'm just not sure how much more runway they have.
Yeah.
Then again, I said this back in season 3, so.
Well, people seem to like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't look at it too long. It just looks so weird. Just don't like how it looks at all.
Yeah. The aesthetic.
Yeah.
Cartoonish heads.
Looks gross.
Yeah.
Anyways, last but not least,
it's there. With Big Mouth season 5, I think not this week. Next week is the series finale of F is for Family next week. So I may be able to get to that. I'll just get to the first episode. So
we'll see.
But something I was able to catch up on and finish and complete. Impeachment, American Crime Story.
All right.
The third version of these American crime stories.
All right.
Impeachment, Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton scandal.
Yeah, so to recap real quick, your previous read on this was you didn't think that the acting or anything was good enough to basically make it rise to the tier of the best American crime stories that we've had before.
Yes.
And most importantly, The People versus OJ.
Yeah.
It doesn't reach what you said before, it doesn't reach those heights because nobody is doing a compelling enough performance. Is that still the case by the end?
Yes. The acting is not compelling enough. What is compelling, though, is the overall narrative of where they're going in here.
Even though you know what happens because you lived it?
Yes, even though I know what happens. Because the narrative isn't getting the truth out. The narrative of who holds power.
Okay.
And that was an interesting aspect that I didn't quite grasp until about episode 3 and 4.
Yeah, because we were 9. Like, that was not going to be something we were going to be grasping the political effects of that. We just knew the very baseline stuff when we were growing up.
Right. But also, I mean, it is on the fact of who holds power. Like, you're talking about the most powerful man in the world.
Sure.
Who is powerless against an affair.
Yeah.
Powerless against his actions, his own desires.
To say about them. Yeah.
Who holds the power between the political office and the media outlets?
Yeah.
Who holds the power between print journalism and the rise of internet journalism?
Mm-hmm.
Who holds because that's when the Drudge Report and internet was coming out.
Absolutely.
Who holds the power between desires and people just wanting to be themselves and people with agendas?
It almost sounds like they finally found their hook for the series, just not fast enough.
Well, either that or I didn't understand the hook fast enough.
It was such a slow burn that they hadn't gotten to it yet. Yeah. And they were when they finally did, you were like, oh, that's what they're going for here.
Yes. Okay. When they finally brought in the news side of it, of holding people accountable, oh, that's power right there, holding the most powerful man in the world accountable. And then flipping on it of, well, they really don't have that much power. They're just saying it.
Yeah.
Because they're basing off someone else who has the power of the knowledge of the past.
Right.
But how much power do they have in, say, the legal system and dealing with courts? And how much power is that compared to someone who fighting the legal system compared to someone who is born and bred in the legal system and knows how to work the system in their power?
Okay. Do you think that they were successful enough in this kind of thematic?
By the end, they were successful.
Where it felt like it was...
But getting into it for those first 4 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes, is going to be tough. Because it's a lot of stuff, backstory information that people mostly don't know about.
Okay.
Until they actually... Because at the end of the first episode, you're finally introduced to Monica Lewinsky. But that's at the very end of the first episode. And then the second episode, it kind of delves into it just a bit, but not enough. And then by the third, that's when everything kind of starts rolling. Oh, now I see the power dynamic between everybody.
Okay. Huh.
But the fact that it takes you 3 episodes, which are each an hour and a half
it's a long road. Yeah.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Okay.
At the end, it was a good journey.
But
that slow ramp up was just.
But I'm good. I'm glad to hear that it landed it.
If they landed it,
yeah.
It's just you're flying up through a fog. You're not sure where it's going to go or what it's about. But finally, when you're above the clouds and you see everything, I understand now. I get it now. Looking back, it's a good show. It's just while you're in the middle of it, you're like, I'm not quite sure of where we're going.
Fair enough. Anything else on television?
Ken Jennings is back as the host of Jeopardy.
Yes, current guest host. I have not gotten quite there. I've still
he will be the guest host through the end of the year.
Cool.
I think that's pretty much it.
I'm just continuing to watch the most recent season of Riverdale prior to the season 6 premiere that will happen in, I believe, at the end of this week.
Okay.
So I'll talk about whether or not season 5 landed it or not. and probably for next week's show. I think we've got like 5 more episodes.
I did watch the new episode of Plan B because I was curious after we talked about it.
Yes,
the reboot. I was curious after we talked about it.
Yeah,
and sure enough,
is this better?
It is a better show and it's a better pivot because it focuses on the retirement home living style, and which means you can get some older guest actors in it for a couple weeks. Ooh. And like, hey, let's bring them in as a guest. Like, oh, you remember this person? Yeah. Now they're living here for a while.
Oh, and the other thing,
hijinks ensues.
Right. The other thing in progress I'm watching, I think I have 2 more weeks on, is Great British Bake Off. 2 more episodes of that, I believe. Semifinals are this week. So. Okay.
And because we are in the holiday season, holiday baking
championship is starting. Yep. also true. And so we'll have more to talk about when those things wrap up in the coming weeks.
Oh, and something I saw last night that I was shocked was on TV.
Okay.
It's You Bet Your Life. The game show is back.
Weird. Okay.
On Friday nights on Fox.
Sure.
Past 10 o'clock. I think it's like 11 o'clock. It's after the news. Hosted by Jay Leno.
Weird.
Yes. Okay. And Kevin Eubanks is there for some reason.
Okay. It's weird.
I don't know why. It was like the worst pilot. If this was the pilot episode, it was the worst pilot episode of a game show I had seen in a long time.
Okay. That's weird.
Jay Leno did some stand-up. He did his like an opening monologue real quick. He did the headlines bits from his from the Tonight Show they used to do. And then it went to You Bet Your Life question and answers. Sure. In like the most plain ass set you've ever seen.
Do you think this is just literally because Fox had to have something cheap to fill a slot because they didn't have anything ready?
Yes.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Just like, we have this, we shot this. You want to put it on television?
Also, there was a secret word where the kids said they get $500.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of it, Jay Leno is literally trying to pull the secret word out of them by keeping asking the same person like different variations of a question to try and get them to say like the word. I was like, oh God, this is super cringy.
It sounds like a nightmare I've had.
I was watching it on the fascination of the train wreck.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. That sounds painful.
It is.
All right, let's move on. Because we need to stop talking about that horror. Let's move on out of thoughts and into cancellations and renewals for this week.
All right, what am I no longer watching besides that Jay Leno game show?
Well, you're going to wrap up Wu-Tang and American Saga because that will be done on Hulu after its 3rd season. Star Trek Prodigy will be back for a 2nd season on Paramount Plus. The Hype will get a 2nd season on HBO Max. Clearly, people are hyped about it. Selena plus Chef will also get a 3rd season on HBO Max. Search Party was recently revived on HBO, or continued on HBO Max after its TBS run, and will have its 5th season be its last.
Yep. Now, these next 3 technically aren't canceled,
right?
But they've stopped airing them on TV.
All right. So Fox and NBC, some network shows that have gotten axed, like you said, temporarily. Mm-hmm. The Big Leap, canceled on Fox after 1 season. Our Kind of People, canceled on Fox after 1 season. And NBC's Home Sweet Home, canceled after 1 season with no more future episodes planned.
Like I said, they're not technically canceled officially.
Pulling them.
But whatever they've shot, that's all they're going to have.
And it sounds like, if they do more, maybe streaming is where it will live.
If that. I mean, glad I didn't invest my time in them, I guess.
Then we have one death this week. Dean Stockwell, age 85. Actor. It was in Quantum Leap, married to the bomb Paris. The Mob,
yeah.
It's a little dyslexic there.
Yep.
And Paris, Texas. So, yeah.
Now, did he die or did he just go somewhere else?
Exactly.
Into someone else's body?
That's Scott Bakula.
That's Scott Bakula.
Anyway, also Quantum Leap.
Also, yes.
Wrong guy. Right. I also just want to mention R.I.P. Winter the Dolphin. The dolphin from the film Dolphin Tale. The one with the prosthetic tail. Died on Veterans Day, the 11th. Was played itself in the movie. Fun fact. That was a real dolphin and a real story
dolphin?
and a real story about a prosthetic tail.
With real Morgan Freeman?
No, but the dolphin was real. Dolphin was very real. So
I'm pretty sure Morgan Freeman was in that film.
R.I.P. Winter. Actually, I don't think he was. Sure, might as well have been. All right, let's move on, and I will toss this off to you, and you will talk about some music for us.
And we'll start the music with the Billboard. We'll start the Billboard with the Hot 100.
Yeah. Can you spot the change?
Yeah.
Can you?
I mean, still at the number 1.
Yes.
Hot 100 at the top. Easy on Me by Adele.
Of course.
Number 2, Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber. 3, Industry Baby by Lil Nas X and Jack Harlow. At number 4, Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. And at number 5, the Applebee song, Fancy Like by Walker Hayes.
Can you spot the change from last week?
Yep. There is no more Drake up here.
Well, that's technically true, but not the change. The change is literally 4 and 5.
4 and 5 swap.
Just swap.
Yep.
But
oh yeah, lots of Fancy Like played at NASCAR.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Everybody brought in their Applebee's into the stadium. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the other chart.
Yep. As for the Billboard 200 chart, your albums chart, number 1 equals Ed Sheeran. Equal sign is number 1 album by Ed Sheeran.
Sure, why not? Of course it is.
Yep. Because it's Ed Sheeran. Number 2, Certified Lover Boy by Drake, because it's Drake. At 3, Dangerous, the double album by Morgan Wallen, because Morgan Wallen. But now that NASCAR's no longer around, I'm sure he's going to drop off. Number 4, Planet Her by Doja Cat, coming up out of nowhere. And rounding up your top 5, Something for the Hotties from The Activities by Megan Thee Stallion.
That is a, as the name implies, an archival, like some recorded songs that she hadn't released yet, compiled into a quick little EP release. It's not a full album.
But able to chart.
But if you like Megan Thee Stallion, it seems like there's some good stuff on there.
From the archives or from the vault.
Yes, exactly. Megan Thee Stallion from the vault. We'll get there. We'll get there.
If you
we just got to get through. We got to get 3 more things, and we can do it. We can talk about it.
If you didn't like any of those albums, we do have new releases.
All right, what do we got this week? This past Friday, I should say.
Yep. Things that you can listen to now include Things Take Time. Take Time by Courtney Barnett.
I'll talk about that in a moment.
Nearer the Fountain, More Pure the Stream Flows by Damon Albarn.
If that name seems familiar, Damon Albarn, is because he's the Blur Gorillaz guy.
Oh, okay.
That's that guy, Damon Albarn.
We also have Welcome Break by Pip Blom.
Yeah.
Crawlers by Idols.
Or singular.
Oh, single.
Just one.
Just one crawler.
Creepy crawler.
The Tears of Hercules by Rod Stewart. And I assume it's Tears and not Tears.
Is that Rod Stewart, by the way?
Yes. It is that Tears and not Tears. Heavy Load Blues by Gov't Mule. I believe that's Government Mule. An Evening with Silk Sonic by Silk Sonic. And Red, Taylor's version by Taylor Swift.
No parentheses on it.
Which we will talk about real soon.
We will talk about that as well.
Yep. All right.
But here's the big news.
Okay. Bring in your pillow. Bring in your blanket. Get cuddled up because about to put this story to bed.
Put on your shirt. Hashtag.
Put on your night shirt. Hashtag Free Britney.
Yep. Because it happened.
It happened. Actually, no. You can now frame that because it's now a relic.
Yeah.
Because Britney Spears' conservatorship has been terminated.
Yes.
Officially done after 13 years. A California court has determined. Quote, the court finds and determines that the conservatorship of the person and the estate of Britney Jean Spears is no longer required. Judge Brenda Penny ruled Friday afternoon, literally yesterday. We're still in 24 hours of this happening.
This is why I do a Saturday show now.
Yes. This is exactly why we do a Saturday show now.
That's actually not why, but yes, it helps.
Yes. The November 12th hearing was brief and ran smoothly as all parties consented to the termination. The pop star was not present at the hearing, but but her attorney Matthew Rosengart, began speaking to the judge by reading from his client's testimony that she delivered back in June, stating that her wish is for the conservatorship to end without evaluation. Quote, "The record is clear. The time has come today."
Yay!
Note.
Yes.
The conservatorship is, while it is terminated, is not fully terminated. There is still an accountant on the conservatorship, but only as an advisor.
Yeah.
Britney Spears has full autonomy of her finances, of her estate, of her body, of her mind, of everything.
Yeah.
She's in full control after 13 years. Put that in perspective.
Yeah.
There are kids in high school who've only known Britney under a conservatorship.
Yeah, I mean, this is good news. It's what the movement wanted. It's what Britney wanted. It's the best case scenario I think that could have happened with all of this. So yeah, I mean, now the next step is to seeing what Britney does with her freedom. We might see some re-released records. We might see some new music. We might see some family news coming from her very soon.
We might not see her at all.
We might not see her at all. Maybe she just decides that, hey, that was fun, but like, I'm done.
I'm done.
I feel like that's highly unlikely because she has stated one of the things she does want to do is go back to the studio and record more music. So, and she wants to perform again. Her Vegas residency was cut short, and it would be interesting to see her renegotiate for that again. Anything could happen. It's Britney's world now. She can choose to do whatever she wants. I'm excited to see what the next steps are in her career.
Concert tour saying Britney's back.
Yeah, that's all she has to do.
Yep.
The It's Britney.
And it will sell out immediately.
The It's Britney bitch.
Yes.
Tour. That's all she has to do.
Yep. And it'll sell out instantly.
I bet. Here's my prediction for the Grammys in February or January or whenever they air. I don't remember.
They're February.
She comes on stage to present something. Standing ovation.
Yep.
It has to happen, right? Because it'll be the first time she'll be making such a big public appearance.
She'll do New Artist of the Year.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they'll take Britney out to do that.
Yeah, like I've been around this music business for so long.
Yeah. And
it's so great to see all of you people.
It'll be great. It'll be a great moment.
And it's great to be on the stage.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to welcome it with the upcoming generation.
Yeah.
And the nominees are.
Yeah.
There, I've written it.
Put our money down. This is gonna happen. And when it happens, we'll get our little phones out.
Yep.
Because we called it. All right, let's move on.
Yep. Any other news with the Britney stuff?
That's pretty much all I saw.
We've been watching this for about a year now, and
that might be the end of this story. You're probably right, but as you had said multiple times this year, it's probably our music story of the year.
Yeah,
it's like been so dominant. It's what we've talked about more than anything else. Yeah. So
it is of note that the lawyer did say that they were not done.
Yes.
With the legal proceedings, with Britney's legal proceedings, meaning that she could potentially and probably will sue the people of the conservatorship for having her under this for so long.
Could very well happen unless she just wants to be done with it, which I could also understand.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens.
But 13 years. She's 39 now, so it means when she was 26.
Yes.
So
wild.
Being 26-year-old, putting in a conservatorship up until you're roughly 40.
Yeah, exactly. It's a jet, like you lose so much time. And so, I'm excited to see what she does.
I mean, that's 2008. That's 2.5 presidencies now.
That's true. All right. Let's move on. Speaking of the new generation.
Speaking of the new generation, the singer-songwriter Mitski's sixth record, titled Laurel Hell, is set to release on February 4th via Dead Oceans. The album will be Mitski's first full-length release since 2018's Be the Cowboy, which found itself at the top of many end of the year best album
lists. It was in my top 5 that year.
Yes, it was.
I recall.
Laurel Hell is a soundtrack for transformation, a map to the place where vulnerability.
This is a quote.
Oh, sorry. Quote. Well, because it started off with Laurel Hell quotes.
It's a double.
It's a double quote.
It's hard to see.
So, quote, Laurel Hell is a soundtrack for transformation, a map to the place where vulnerability and resilience, sorrow and delight, error and transcend can all sit transcend, can all sit within our humanity, can all be seen as worthy of acknowledgement, and ultimately love.
Oh.
The press release for the announcement reads, I accept it all, she promises. I forgive it all.
So,
new Mitski.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of flowery language to basically say, hey, we're getting a new Mitski record. We knew we would. Yeah. She released a couple of singles already off of it. I have a mystery shirt coming in the mail. Apparently the designs are mystery designs, and I won't know until I get it what it looks like. Interesting, huh? So yeah, it's.
I remember when I was doing mystery boxes.
Yeah, right.
They're fun.
It's exciting because she the most important thing to note about Be the Cowboy, it was Pitchfork's #1 record that year.
Okay.
Which surprised a lot of people, myself included. But it was very good, and Mitski is a really great singer-songwriter. It's good to see her back and doing more music. So what may seem like a small music story, I think as she kind of rises, you're going to see her pop up just like how we've seen Phoebe Bridgers lately, which is she's going to break into the mainstream, and I think this is maybe her moment.
This is the 6th record, so...
Yeah, this is the time, I think, to pull that trigger. Even though Phoebe's done it in half the time, but whatever. Anyway.
You can't compare them.
You can't compare them. All right.
Nothing compares to you.
Thanks, Prince. All right. What's now we get to do the fun part.
Yep. Talk about thoughts. All right. So speaking of Be the Cowboy.
Let's get the small 2 records out of the way, and then we can talk about the
Yep. So speaking of Be the Cowboy.
Yes.
Jason Aldean.
Is a cowboy.
One of my favorite cowboys.
He loves to be a cowboy.
And he's out with his 10th studio album, Mason.
Macon.
Macon?
You have Macon here.
Mason.
Garcon.
Mason. So Macon. So it's weird.
With an M.
Well, so this album is actually named after the hometown of Georgia where he's from.
I figured, yes.
That's why it's named as such, Macon. Making a lot.
He's making a lot of money with this.
And he probably will be making a lot of money with this because it's pretty.
It's a good Jason Aldean record.
It's a solid Jason Aldean record. It's got the hard rock love songs that you love to hear from Jason Aldean.
Sure.
Not necessarily the stadium anthems that we've come to know in the past,
okay,
but it is more the other albums that he puts out, which is the Home Down Roots, the love hard rock, kind of bluesy. It's kind of Jason Aldean to it. Also on here, there's a rendition of Heaven. Yes, that Heaven, which has been covered by the likes of Bryan Adams and Cascade.
Oh, weird.
And so we're now getting a country version of Heaven.
What?
Yes, by Jason Aldean on this album.
I have to listen to that. That sounds wild.
And he ends it, he kind of overfills it with 5 live tracks from his tour of his famous songs, which is good because I like hearing that stuff, but also bad because you hear it's like, oh, these are the hits I'm used to compared to what I just listened to.
Okay.
So mixed bag with Macon.
Okay.
But
if you like Jason Aldean, it seems like mostly
stuff you'll like if you like Jason Aldean.
Right.
Otherwise, it's gonna be a hit and miss.
Yeah.
Not the stadium anthems that you've come to hear from Jason Aldean.
Yeah.
Kind of missing that.
It's all right.
But it's a hometown roots for Jason Aldean. Well, that's probably why I called it Macon.
That actually is a really good segue into what I listened to this week, which is the new Courtney Barnett record, Things Take Time, Take Time. This is her 3rd record following her first big debut record. Sometimes I sit and think, sometimes I just sit, which was a big critical hit when it came out. It was a top 10 record on a lot of big lists. I love it. It's a classic. Her second one, more middling, a little slower, a little more difficult. I think it alienated a lot of people. And this one is kind of like even a more questionable choice, I think, to a lot of people. She's still very guitar driven, still very these slower, kind of drawn out, kind of guitar based songs. But she's lost a little bit that lyrical bite that I think her debut promised, and a lot of people was hoping that she would continue having. So I see a lot of people maybe getting a little disappointed by this and being like, well, it's not as engaging, it's not as interesting as I think some of the songs she's written before. I actually had an okay time with it. I liked it better than I think a lot of the critical reviews that are coming out. It's a good, like, relaxing, guitar-driven indie rock record that you can kind of just put on while you're driving somewhere or put on in the background while you're working. And I think it's really nice vibes. It's chill. It is chill, is what I will say for it. It's calming.
Does it have the funky beats?
No, it's not that kind of record. Okay, it's not that kind of record. So if you like the slower moments, like if you like her single from the first record, Depreston, it's kind of like that. She still got that Australian twang to her voice, which is very comforting, I think. So if you like Courtney, I say check it out. It's not as, like I said, it's not as exciting or engaging as maybe what she's capable of. I think doing that one record that she did with Kurt Weill has changed her sound forever. Yeah. After that, they did a duet record, which was very slow in his kind of style, if you're familiar at all with Kurt Weill. And so I think it's affected her songwriting ever since. She just slowed down and chilled out ever since. And she hasn't came back. So yeah, it is what it is. I liked it. I enjoyed my time with it, but it's not gonna top lists. It's not gonna be anyone's favorite of her records. It's hard to top when you made a classic on your first go. That's all I can say. And she's going to be chasing that, I think, forever.
And speaking of classics, that's a great segue. Okay,
all right. Let's get into it.
We want to talk about it.
It's Taylor's world. We're just living in it. Let's talk about
Taylor's version.
Taylor's version. It's what it's felt like the last couple days. I cannot get away from this record. It is everywhere. She is everywhere. She's on every late night show. She's on SNL tonight. Yep. I'll be watching that. She's
only doing the music, right?
Yeah, she's just musical guest. Yep. But dang, Taylor Swift finally did it. She released Red, Taylor's version, a re-release of her 2012 album, what fans often refer to as her best. And they're not wrong, I think. It's not maybe my personal favorite, but I think quality-wise, they're probably correct. Probably is her best.
Your favorite and best can be two different things.
It is. I tweeted this. I tweeted two separate lists this week because I was like thinking about it. But yeah, this is what you think it is. So if you listen to this podcast earlier in the year, we talked about her re-release of Fearless, her second album. And this follows the same template as that. It is re-records of the original songs that were on the album, re-records of the bonus tracks that were on the expanded version of the album, and then from the vault tracks that she is releasing for the first time. Mm-hmm. All of that is also repeated here with Red, with one specific song that stands out from the rest because of how it's been, I guess, built up by the fans, and it's created its own lore about it.
Hype.
The mythical 10-minute version of Taylor Swift's classic All Too Well. We'll get there. We'll circle back to it. But first, let's talk about the re-records of the original album. How much have you listened to Red, the original? How familiar are with it? And then how does these re-records compare?
The Red is Doctor's favorite album.
Oh, well, there you go.
So there we go. So let's go from a baseline of, okay, I know this album. I've listened to this album. The original one, obviously. Right. I was like, okay, I've had to listen to it for obvious reasons.
Sure.
So putting this one on.
Yes.
It weirdly sounds better created than Fearless does. And I don't understand why, because they're both created the same way, but I like this album better than I did Fearless, or like the Taylor's version.
Sure, yes.
The quality's better. Her singing's better on this.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's just overall better. Even though like they're recorded about the same time.
Yeah, I think it's just because you're working from better material. I think that's literally what it is.
Maybe.
Fearless is a good album. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not as good as Red. And you can tell now with these two comparisons, like you can compare them back to back now. She just, as a songwriter, she just was getting better. She wasn't to the point where she was writing these like stone cold classics yet. She was writing good songs, but they weren't up to the bar that she would eventually reach. So that's why even if you're re-recording it, even if you have better vocals now, even though you are coming from it from that context, it's still, you're working on that baseline and you can only do so much to improve it. And I think, yeah, you're right. Coming at these better songs that she wrote for Red, it's going to sound better no matter what she does.
Is this the adage of a great actor can make good of a great script, or a bad script good?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, well, I mean, not exactly that, because like, I think that argument is if you found the Fearless recordings better,
Right.
But I think that, I think you're onto something there. I think that she's getting into the groove with these re-records, perhaps. And this is also, maybe she's just like in more of a spot. So I watched an interview she did with Seth Meyers on his show last night. And one of the things she said was kind of reviewing the content of these songs that were so in the moment when she wrote them and recorded them was very emotional back then. And now she can look at it from the rear view, from like the big, 20,000 feet above.
Yep.
And she's saying that was freeing in a way. It was relaxing as an experience because it was a way to record something with knowing that it works out in the end.
Well, we're about 10 years from when she did record it.
Yeah. And I think that it's different with Fearless, because Fearless, the content of those songs comes from a very different place. It's about wide-eyed optimism. It's about hope. It's about like, if I do get into these relationships, what will they be like? Will it be like these movie romances that I see? That's the Fearless songs. Red is the opposite of that. Red is the realization that, no, this is what real romance can happen. What can happen to real romance sometimes. Here's the bitterness, the feeling of being lost, the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of regret or revenge. Like, it's the aftermath. The trouble. It's the aftermath, right? And so they're just so different that it's hard to compare. So what I will say is, I agree with you somewhat that these re-records are pretty good, but there are exceptions. I think that the Max Martin songs, your radio singles that were huge at the time, I think 22, I Knew You Were Trouble, and what's the other one? Never Getting Back Together. I actually think they come out sounding the worst of all the re-records. And that's not necessarily Taylor's fault. I think it's just that they're, weirdly enough, and I can say this now with almost a decade of distance, they're very of their time. They're so influenced by sounds that were popular in 2012, your dubsteps, your big EDM movement that was happening at the time, that I feel like they sound almost kind of empty in a modern production. And with such clean, pristine recordings of them, you can tell that more than you used to be able to. It's a big difference hearing the original playing on, the radio and hearing 22 come out of modern quality headphones in this new higher fidelity version. It's almost, it almost makes you wonder how a 1989 remaster will sound, because it also has that problem where it's so influenced by its time that it's going to come out on the other end of this process, I think, sounding a little weird.
Right. It's time being 2018, not 1989.
2014. That was a 2014 record. So it's going to be, but I did think that a lot of the guitar-driven songs come out sounding really, really good here. I think the highlights for me were the re-record of Red, the title track.
Yes.
Sounds amazing. I think it's easily better than the original. And also some of the slower numbers. I think that Sad, Beautiful, Tragic sounds great. Sounds beautiful in the new re-record. I think her voice has aged very well to do the Hope Sandoval, Mazzy Star impression that she was trying to do the first time, but was too young to execute. Now she can do it, and she does it really, really well. I also thought the duet sounded weird, especially the Ed Sheeran duet.
I wonder if he was able to re-record if he did it.
He definitely did, because it sounds way different than his vocal take on the original. I actually prefer how he sounded in 2012. Okay. I think he sounds really strange here, and I don't know why. He sounds better in the bonus, in the vault track that he's also on.
Okay.
I don't know what was going on in the recording for Everything Has Changed. It's super weird. And the Snow Patrol guy, he just sounds like the Snow Patrol guy again.
Right. So let's talk about the song we need to talk about. Mythical 10 minutes.
All right. So we'll talk about the vault stuff overall. Real quick. How do you like the new songs? That were not.
I didn't get to the new songs yet.
What? You're coming in not prepared.
Oh no! See, I started at the top.
For the Media Boat podcast.
I started at the top.
You didn't do what I did, which was wait until 9 o'clock on Thursday night and press play at 9:10 and listen to almost 2.5 hours of this thing.
Oh no! See, I listened to the 50-minute bacon version of Jason Aldean.
Okay, well, I did my homework, so I can actually talk about the new Vault stuff. I actually think the unreleased Vault stuff is better than the Fearless unreleased Vault stuff, which, of course, makes sense. She was a better songwriter in the Red era. It makes sense that the 2012 songs would sound better than the 2008 songs, and they do. One note, 2 of the songs you may recognize as having heard before because you have. Because there were songs that Taylor wrote in the era for other artists. Better Man, which was recorded by Little Big Town and was a single for them. I believe they won a Grammy off of that thing. I think they did as well. Which Taylor wrote. She now records her own version of for one of the vault tracks.
I like that song.
It's really good. The Taylor version is also very, very good. It's one of her most underrated songs. I think that it's really well represented here. And then Babe, which she handed to Sugarland. Okay. She records here herself. They both sound really good. I think it's a good example of even though other artists own this, she can also kind of co-own it. And the brand new songs here, I had a good time with. There's one in specific that sounds like almost a beta version of a 1989 track called Message in a Bottle. I don't know if it's a Max Martin thing. I don't think it is, but it sounds like it is. It's her try at pure EDM sound.
Okay.
Before she wrote, of course, what was the EDM song she secretly wrote with Calvin Harris? It was where she wasn't credited initially.
Oh, well, she was the Swedish.
It was Bjorn something. Yes. Yeah. What was that one? That's shit. Was it Rihanna? She ended up recording that. Anyways, we don't need to talk about it. But before she did that, she did this, and obviously, yes, calling a song. Pictures. You're gonna get I don't remember what it is, but
Feels?
No, that's not it.
This is what you came for.
That's it. Yeah, this is what you came for. Well, so before that though, obviously naming a song "Message in a Bottle" is kind of hard to do because everybody's just gonna think about the police. Mm-hmm. But it's a very, very good song. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I had a really good time with the vault songs. And then now we can talk about All Too Well 10-minute version, Taylor's version. So,
you kept going.
If you're not familiar with the legend of All Too Well, it is a song that, according to Taylor, the first draft was a 10-minute draft that she culled down, took some lyrics out to become the 6-minute version that we got on the original recording of Red. It became a fan favorite. It was never released as a single. There was no video for it. Mm-hmm. But it became a classic because the fans really glommed onto it. And over the course of the years since Red's release, it's arguably become her best song. A lot of people call it her best song. It kind of encapsulates the entire Taylor Swift identity. It's a song about a love, a romance that didn't work out, and feeling still having the repercussions of that even now. Literally all too well. I know that all too well. It's kind of encompasses the entire work of Taylor Swift. And it's why fans like it so much. Well, she decided that she was going to put and record the original draft, the original 10-minute draft of All Too Well on this record. And sure enough, all the rumors over time about it turned out to be true. That it was more specific about her relationship with supposedly, allegedly, Jake Gyllenhaal. This is supposedly about, believe it or not. And then also that it had some swears in it. It absolutely does. And so the fan theories ended up being correct. One caveat, I will say. Some people have pointed out that the claim that she's making that these have always been the lyrics and this version has always existed since she wrote it in that era. Some people maybe are finding that a little hard to swallow. Some people are pointing out that the cadence and the delivery of the lyrics in this version sound awful lot like stuff on Folklore and Evermore, modern Taylor writing, as opposed to the style in which she wrote in 2012. So jury's still out on whether we are believing Taylor at face value that this was actually the original draft.
Well, this is Taylor's version.
Yeah.
So
who knows? It could go either way. Maybe someday she says, oh yeah, I wrote that in 2020. Maybe it is. Maybe she'll show stand up some papers and say no, I wrote it. It's right here. I wrote it 2012. Who knows?
Lyrics might be there, but vocally it might be different.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe. All that said, I think delivers on the promise. I think fans will be happy with it. I think they are happy with it already. It's devastating. There's a lot of great lyrics in the new version. It's a weird structure, though. As you mentioned, it kind of keeps going. Mm-hmm. It's very proggy because it's 3 different kind of things in one. it goes some places. When you think it's done, it's not. There's a whole coda like at the end of it. It fades out, which I laughed at literally when I got to that part of the song. I was like, wow, she had the balls to write a 10-minute song and then have it fade out. But it's I think it's what people wanted it to be. I think it's ultimately what the fans dreamed of it being. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of people's immediate like favorite thing that she's ever done. I think this is gonna be like a crowning moment for her going forward. Everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, but the realest Taylor song is the 10-minute All Too Well. I think that's going to be what you're going to hear from the Swifties from here on out. So you have you listened to the full 10 minutes?
I did listen to full 10 minutes. I think it was the first thing that I put on because I wanted to hear all 10 minutes.
You did the thing I kind of wanted to do, but I was like, no, I have to do it the way she intended. So I waited.
Like listen to it.
Yeah, I listened to top to bottom. So you
gotta listen to that first.
Yeah,
and then jump to Jason Aldean, and then listen to the top of Red.
Fair enough.
Because I wanted to listen to it. Actually, no, it got spoiled to me on YouTube. Like, hey, we know you're looking up for this, so here you go.
Algorithm spoiled it for you.
Yep.
But yeah, ultimately, I think it's a good. I think it turns out better than the Fearless Taylor's version does, and a lot of that's but just because Red is a better album. And she was just a better artist when she wrote these songs. And I think that as a package, it's probably one of the best albums of the year. With that caveat that media vote rules, I'm going to eliminate it from competition.
Because it's a re-release?
Because it's a re-release. I'm sorry. I think maybe if we want to do a separate like kitty corner where it's like stuff that's not necessarily from this year that we also loved, maybe we can include it.
I mean,
but
we can. I mean, there's always honorable mentions.
Yeah. But I will say that I think that as it stands, as a thing, that as a re-release of Red, I think it's better than I anticipated it being. I think it's the version of this record to kind of go down in history. I think she succeeded at it. She succeeded at everything she said she wanted it to be.
The album may be titled Red, but you're giving it a gold.
That's what you did there. Real quick, last thing I want to say about it is I watched the co-release, like the release at the same time, short film that she put out for All Too Well, which uses the 10-minute song as a backbone, but is a film that she directed and wrote. It's directly released on YouTube for anybody to watch, but it also had a limited theatrical release in New York area AMC theaters.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess because she wanted to see it on a big screen, which makes sense. I watched it. It's fine. It's got Sadie Sink, 19-year-old actress who's been in Stranger Things and a couple of other smaller deals, and Dylan O'Brien in it as the couple. Yeah, in the song. It's interesting. She's not a great director. It looks fine. I think Halsey actually is better than she is technically. If you're going to compare pop singers,
which I did watch that Halsey on HBO Max.
Yeah, it's good. Huh? It's all right. It's a very interesting visual thing.
Yeah,
and this also succeeds in that way. It's a very interesting visual thing. It's very autumnal. It's very like there's leaves falling as you would hope there would be. There's a scene of a lover's spat, big argument, blow ups, a lot of crying on shoulders, a lot of hugging. It's what you think it is about a movie adaptation of the song All Too Well. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine for what it is. And it's like 13 quick minutes. So if that sounds appealing to you, go on YouTube, check it out. It's a good companion piece to the record.
Okay.
But yeah, that's Taylor. Good luck escaping this. This will be everywhere for a while.
Mm-hmm. Anything else about Taylor Swift or any other?
No, I think that wraps it up. I think that's pretty much all we need to say.
All right, let's move on then to our final section here.
Yeah, wrap it
in
up.
Video games.
Yes.
We'll start with new releases,
okay,
including Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 for the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. Nerf Legends. Now, they're not nerfing these legends. This is Nerf guns.
Yeah, Nerf guns.
Legend. For the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Switch, and PC. It's everywhere. If you got it, you can play it.
Yeah.
And your two big releases of the week, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl for the Switch.
Out Friday. I will hopefully be able to talk about this next week's show, depending on whether Target delivers it on Friday or not. Okay. You will see. Because yes, Christy will be playing this.
Okay. And then we have Battlefield 2042 for everything but the Switch.
Yeah.
Yep. PS4, PS5, both Xboxes and the PC.
So yeah, if you have those consoles, you're getting Battlefield. If you don't, you're getting Pokemon. We'll see.
All right. Let's get some video game news.
Yes.
And we'll start with the Game Pass.
Yeah, for PC.
For PC, as The Verge reports that Microsoft is working on an update to the Xbox app, which will give players similar install options to Steam and some other game launchers. Currently, players are able to change which drive their games install to by default by going to the settings menu on the PC Xbox app. At the moment, games are installed to a Windows apps folder, which is restricted to players.
Yeah.
However, the new update will also let players specify exactly which folder they want to install a game to. This will then allow them to browse and modify the contents of these folders once a game has been installed, aka modding. Quote, with great PC games like Back 4 Blood, Age of Empires 4, Forza Horizon 5, and Halo Infinite, on day one with Game Pass, we wanted to provide players with more options to customize their experience in the Xbox app. Jason Beaumont, partner director of experiences at Xbox, told The Verge in a statement, quote, we will continue to share updates as we launch additional features, end
yes.
quote.
This is a big deal for two reasons for people who use Game Pass on PC.
Yep.
First and foremost, is this is fixing a big issue that a lot of people have had with the service on PC that they don't have on console. PC gamers are used to being able to do what they want to do with their video games. I mean, one of the things about Steam being so open is you can install wherever you want if you have a specific games folder, and you can put mods on it. There's a flexibility to PC gaming that's ingrained in PC gaming culture because it's always been there. There's an assumption that you have more freedom with your experience on PC than you ever do with a console. With Microsoft Game Pass and Game Store on PC, they kind of put a wrench in that. Basically, putting them in this hidden folder pissed off a lot of people who wanted more flexibility, especially people who wanted to move them, say, if their C drive was getting filled up and couldn't in the way that they wanted to, because even if they would uninstall, those files would still be hidden somewhere that they didn't have access to and couldn't remove them. This solves that problem. I think this is going to be good news for all those heavy power users on PC who've been frustrated by the inaccessibility of those folders.
This also means sales of SSD drives will go up as that's where they're going to put them.
Right, exactly. But then, of course, as you mentioned, the flip side of this, and where some more niche of the PC community will be excited about this, is mod support.
Yeah.
Having the files be able to found and modified does make it easy to say run the Game Pass version of Fallout New Vegas and put a mod in there. New Vegas and the Fallout games are notorious for being heavily modded. Yep. This will allow people to finally do it in the Game Pass version. So yeah, it's exciting. It opens up a whole new world of options for PC games on the Game Pass service.
Now, this does mean that, as it says, day one releases such as Forza Horizon 5 and Halo Infinite will be able to be modded from day one.
Supposedly. I mean, yeah, I don't know how much Microsoft is going to let tools out there for people to do that. Like, mod support has to be on a game level to a certain extent, unless you really want to hack it. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a whole lot of that action with the Microsoft first party stuff. But legacy stuff, like especially the Bethesda games or its Doom games, I think you're going to see a lot of stuff in the mod community being made for those.
Okay. All right, and our second story has to deal with some delays. As it is the holiday season, I'm sure you want yourself a new console.
Well, bad news.
Bad news. If you're looking forward to Valve's Steam Deck, well, the launch is going to be delayed.
Yeah.
In a statement published by the company,
Valve,
It was due to the global supply chain issues. Or, that's at least what they say. Right. Quote, due to material shortages, components aren't reaching our manufacturing facilities in time for us to meet our initial launch dates. End quote.
Yeah.
In February of 2022 will now be the start date of reservation queues.
Yeah.
All reservation holders keep their place in line, but dates will shift back accordingly.
Yeah.
But according to Valve. Reservation date estimates will be updated shortly. Quote, again, we're sorry we won't be able to make our original ship date. We'll continue working to improve reservation dates based on the new timeline, and we'll keep folks updated as we go.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't super surprising. Sony had a similar thing to say this week about PS5s.
Yep.
They had to kind of crank down the number that they were talking about originally for PS5s hitting the holiday season. Mm-hmm. Supply chain is just still shot, and nobody can make the components that they need to make these electronics. Not surprising that Valve got hit too. So their ambitious plan about getting some of these by the end of the year is not going to pan out, and everybody's going to move back in the queue, which means that you were already last. You're going to be even further back than you thought in 2022. Which is depressing if you're really looking forward to this.
The tweet I saw when the PlayStation supply was announced was that I've never had a harder time trying to give someone $500.
I want to give you this money for a good or service. Please let me give you this $500. That's funny. Now, if you're in the market for a different kind of handheld.
Oh, you mean like the one with the crank?
Yeah, if you want to
crank it up.
I always want to get cranking.
Put some of that sugar in my cup. What?
All right.
Additionally, panic.
Panic.
But don't panic.
Yeah.
But do panic. Because the company Panic has announced that its Playdate handheld has also been delayed to 2022.
Yeah.
The first batch of systems were supposed to be sent out to pre-order customers late this year, but issues with the battery and CPU have resulted in a delay. According to a message sent to all pre-order customers, the first major issue was a problem with the battery in the sample units Panic had ordered.
Yeah.
Quote, our first 5,000 finished Playdate units arrived at our warehouse in California for 2021. We began to test a few of them. We quickly became concerned that some of them weren't giving us the battery life that we expected. This is why you hire quality control.
Well, okay, so there's a couple of wrinkles here. One interesting thing, though, is this is not a supply chain issue for once, because these things don't use the high-priced components that these bigger, more complicated consoles do. That being said, it is something that they're at least aware of and are working on, and so it seems like a legitimate reason. Yeah. And the other thing is that, yes, that sounds all well and good, like hire more people to do quality control, but they're also a much smaller company than your Valves and Sonys.
Yes.
It's a much bigger undertaking that they're doing here as a small company.
Well, I'm not saying hire more quality. I'm saying this is why you do quality
Yes, this
control.
Is why.
Because if you sent these out, like, just based on a few tests, like, oh, one looks good, let's just send out all 5,000, and then, like, even 10%, which is 500 of them, come back as faulty.
Right. They would have had a return nightmare, and it wouldn't have been a good launch for them. So this is probably
how you kill your launch immediately.
So this is probably a good thing to just get out in front of it, being like, hey, we want this to be the best experience possible, and it's not there yet. So just wait a little bit longer. We're going to deliver this thing when it's finally ready for consumption.
But yeah, they have 5,000 units. I mean, that's
a lot of units.
That's a lot of units.
It's a good start. Good start, because I imagine there's probably hundreds of thousands of people that probably bought this, pre-ordered this. So they're getting there. But
yeah, like I said, this is a smaller company too. So
right.
We're not dealing with like
this is not millions of people. No, this is a much more niche product.
Yep.
But yeah, so you're just gonna have to wait a little longer for both of those things.
A little longer to crank it up.
Yes.
So right now we'll just crank it down a bit.
Crank it down a little bit.
All right. We had a couple thoughts as we wrap up here. What I assumed was going to be a longer podcast.
Yeah, you were right. But this should not take very long to wrap up here.
All
just quick little things about these games.
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, Riders Republic, the new Ubisoft game, had an open beta that I was able to get into.
All right.
I believe this is releasing next week, or is it? No, it's already out, right?
Yeah, this came out this past week.
This last week.
This is out now.
Yes, this is out now. So I was able to play Riders Republic.
Riders Republic.
Man, Ubisoft and that Assassin's Creed map has gotten a lot of use out of it.
Does Riders Republic have a big map with a bunch of things on it?
Yes, Riders Republic has a big map with a lot of different activities on it.
Okay. And this is, to be clear, this is a skiing snowboarding game, right?
Oh, but there's also gliding and ATVing and I think there's like some water into it as well.
Fun. Okay.
But yeah, mainly like biking, skiing, snowboarding, mountain BMX racing, adventure, high adrenaline adventure game.
All right.
With a big like Assassin's Creed style map with a bunch of different activities for you to go and do.
Cool.
So for someone like me who wants to do every single one and kind of like farm my way through it as I go, it's a complete nightmare. That being said, there's so much variety in gameplay that you can pick and choose to do your favorite ones.
That's nice.
So it's good to have variety for certain players.
Is it fun?
I had some fun playing it, actually.
Right.
It moves fast.
Cool.
Like the actual races are not longer than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're quick to restart as well. There's a first-person view as well as a third-person view, so you can get that extra boost of like going real fast down a mountain in the first-person mode, or if you want to see where you're going, you can do the third-person, like kind of cheat and peer the camera around.
Yeah.
And do stuff. Drifting as well. I think the flying through the air mechanic adds that extra layer that you're not just limited to what they could put on the map.
Yeah.
So you can fly through canyons, you can fly through the rings as well. It gives it that extra dimensional layer as well.
Okay.
And then it gives you like the option to either use the bike or the snowboard to travel around or run to everything, or you can get on ATV and ride everywhere, or get on a snowmobile and ride everywhere. It's fun.
Cool.
I have fun doing it.
Do you like it enough where you're going to look into the full version?
No.
But it was nice to have for free for a little bit.
Yeah. The story mode is at least unique in it, or at least fun in its own right, where you're trying to climb the what's essentially the X Games ladder.
Sure. To
become the best extreme sporter you can be. I thought the characters were fun that you were introduced to in that. So if you're looking for like an adventure sports game, it's not a bad one of those.
All right.
I just kind of prefer more story-based games at this point now.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah,
it seems cool.
From the brief time that I had, the map is big, lots of different environments, and fun. Which is weird calling for a Ubisoft game at this point, but I had fun with it. Great. So if you're looking for a good like adventure sports, I mean, it doesn't feel like you're doing the same pass over and over again.
Yeah.
There's variety around the maps.
Cool.
So
great. Awesome.
It's fun like that.
That's awesome. I'm glad that's good because after people were kind of disappointed with Steep, Ubisoft's last try at this.
Yeah, but with Steep, you're doing the exact same run in different styles.
So this is more open.
This is more open and optional, yes.
That's really cool. Cool. I'm glad Riders Republic is good. Speaking of story-based games, I played a game that's nothing but.
Yes. So this is on my queue at some point when I'm trying to get it.
And it was on my queue too. So this came out earlier in the year, but I have not had a chance to play it because it's a full price, $60 product, and I was not quite ready when it came out to purchase it. Mm-hmm. But it's here. The new Life is Strange game, True Colors.
Your True Colors. Exactly.
So this is the third proper Life is Strange game following the original 2 and 2. This is not by the original developer, Don't Nod. This is by a company that previously had worked with them on Life is Strange projects, including Before the Storm, the spiritual prequel to the first game. And it follows in the footsteps of 2 and introduces brand new characters in a brand new place. Although technically it may be related to the other games because they also take place in Colorado. They're all in the expanded Colorado okay. Life is Strange universe. That being said, so I jumped into Life is Strange True Colors last week. I've played through the first episode. Unlike previous games, it is not being released episodically. Instead, you get all of the episodes at once in one game package. Okay. I think this is a good choice because it means that you don't have those cliffhangers, which were annoying before. Yes. You're not waiting 3 months to find out what happens. But people who want to maybe approach it in a more separated way will want to impose that own restriction on themselves. I'm not doing that. I'm just powering through. Okay. So I finished 1 and I'm in the middle of the second episode so far. And I'm enjoying it so far. It has all the Life is Strange trappings that you would hope it would. The characters are interesting in a young adult fiction kind of way. If you're going in expecting some like deep, really emotional, like super well-written story, that's not what this is. This is very much like story about like people in their young 20s who make stupid decisions. It's very like CW show. It's very young adult fiction. It's very, but in a good way though, not in a bad way.
Because like CW recently has been like taking good concepts and just shoving their formulaic storytelling down.
It's not. Yeah, it's not doing that. It's more of it's when those things are good. It's like it's where it's like that's why I said young adult fiction first because if you're familiar with that world, it's more like that. These are serious stories that are like emotionally resonant for people going through some shit when you're young, and that's very much what this is. In fact, the hook this time is that you're somebody who is so empathetic that it becomes and like so in tune with other people's emotions that it becomes almost a superpower for them. Just as previous Life is Strange games, your character has supernatural ability that plays into the actual gameplay of the game. And this is also the case here. Except it's less of a one-to-one comparison than the first one. The first one, you had the time rewind that you could literally use to solve puzzles. Mm-hmm. This is more abstracted out where it's like, yes, there is a supernatural ability, but the puzzles are more in the world and are not actually related to the ability. You're not a superhero, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay. You have the ability to maybe see some things that other people can't, but you're not like, you're not a superhero in the same way that you maybe would be in these other games. So yeah, it's an interesting hook. I think that the gameplay so far is what you would expect. The story is what you would expect. The writing has maybe some of the limitations that the games have had in the past, not getting up to quite a high enough bar. Maybe for some people will read it as being like, I wish these performances were better, or wish this writing was a little better. But if you're coming in expecting Life is Strange, you're going to get that. Okay. And I think a lot of people will be satisfied by it. And for what it is, I think it is pretty well written, in my opinion. I think it's doing the thing it does pretty well for what it is.
Now, the price tag.
I think that maybe people are going to look at this and be like, I'm going to spend $60 for a game that's all story. So you really have to be on board for what this kind of thing is to be willing to pay for it. Especially with the special editions, they will try to gouge you to get more out of you by adding things into that pile. The most expensive version, which, yes, you can make fun of me now, I ponied up for, includes this game, already released like expansion story that talks about another character's experience more in depth. And then also, when they release at the beginning of the next year, the remastered editions of Life is Strange 1 and Before the Storm.
Okay.
That's one I bought because I was like, it'd be nice to have PS5 versions of those. And so I just ended up just buying all of it because I was like, why not?
It's something you were going to get already.
I was probably going to pay the $20 when those came out anyway. So you know what? Whatever. Okay. So yeah, I just did it. You don't have to do that. Like I said, the base package just for the game by itself is $60, even on PS5. Okay. And if you buy the PS5 version, you also get the PS4 version. It's just one version. Okay. So yeah, I'm having a good time with it. I've said, I don't even think I'm halfway through this thing yet. There's a lot more of it to finish, but I like the story so far. I like the characters. I think it's going in some interesting ways. It's still, even though it's not released episodically, they still managed to do that gut punch cliffhanger ending at the end of the first episode that makes you want to press on next chapter right away.
Okay.
So it's still Life is Strange. I think they're doing a good job with this one.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah.
Let me check this out.
Yeah. It's cool.
I think the next one on my list is Kena for PS5.
Yeah, Kena. I haven't played Kena yet.
Well, I think it's for previous gens.
No, that's PS5 game.
I know, but I think it's released yet for PS5.
No, it's out.
It is?
Yeah, it's been out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Something. I got something that says like put it in the mail for something coming out soon.
I don't know, but Kena has been out for
a
couple of weeks on PS5. That's not. It's not to come.
Okay.
But yeah, good time. Good time. A lot of games to play. A lot of games. Oh, and I finished Unpacking. I talked about Unpacking last week without you. But yeah, I finished it. It's still a very fun, calm game that was a little too real maybe at the time I played it,
yes.
but still very good. I think for what it is, it's a fun little subtle narrative game that also fulfills your, maybe if you're a little organization happy, your fantasy of everything being put in its right place. So it's good. It's good. It's on Game Pass, and you should play it if you have it.
Okay. And lastly, in semi-video game news, fantasy football. Wrapping up.
Yeah, I guess that's video game.
It's video game-ish, fantasy football. I meant to mention this in sports, but in case you didn't hear the news, OBJ is now a Ram.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for
yes.
our team. Also, because of the extended weeks, the regular season will be wrapping up at the end of this month, which gives us into playoffs real soon.
Yeah, coming soon.
Super excited about that.
So excited.
Can I be a breaking news story?
Yeah.
Okay.
Breaking news.
Robert Woods tore his ACL out for the season.
That's why they got him.
That's why they got OBJ.
Wow. Okay. All right.
So OBJ won't be the diva that we thought he would.
No, he's actually going to be important.
Because he's going to be an important part.
Well, rip your team now.
And we'll get the ball all the time.
Wow. Well, there you go. Breaking news.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Bobby Woo. Bobby Trees.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Everybody. Good thing I brought it up. Okay.
All right. It was perfect timing.
Hey.
All right. Well, is it time to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's try to wrap it up.
Thank you for joining us for this week, this burgeoning, full of news episode of the Media Vote podcast.
Full of thoughts, too.
We'll be back next week with another episode. Actually, will we? Yes, because we're a week before Thanksgiving. We need to figure out what we're going to do that weekend.
We'll just do a Wednesday episode on that week.
Okay, we'll talk about it. But yeah, thank you for joining us for this week. If you want to see the video versions of this show, you can go to youtube.com and search Media Boat Podcast. Find our channel where we have archives of our live streams, as well as live streams when they happen on Saturday mornings, usually. If you want the audio version, you can go to podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon. You can go to iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts, we are there. So check us out there. If you want to see us on social media, we're on Twitter at MediaVoteCast, Facebook, search Media Vote Podcast to find our page. Like, subscribe, whatever you want to do there. And then if you want to ask us questions, we are just an email away at mediavotepodcast@gmail.com. Questions, comments, we may read yours on the air if you send one. So thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week. So stay tuned. Tune in next week for a new one. But in the meantime, have a good week, everybody. Enjoy, hopefully, what in the U.S., most of you have a nice long weekend thanks to Veterans Day. So we'll see you guys next week.
Yep, we'll be back next week with more thoughts, more news, and more of us.
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Done there. Done here. Bye, stream.
Bye, stream. Not too much longer.